Energy. This morning, Summerfest announced a slate of headliners for the 2021 event, this year being held during the first 3 weekends in September due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, happy Thursday, my little buddy.
Hey, Crudy, happy Thursday to you as well. Fancy Brian, likewise, our fair audience, thank you for joining us. It's going to be a huge show today.
Well, Dominic, here's the lead. I've got the lead.
The lead.
Donald Trump will be your GOP 2024 presidential nominee.
Oh, hell
Take it to the bank.
I'll take all your money to the bank.
Well, you know, one asterisk, unless Rudy rolls up on him. Unless his ass is serving in prison by then, we will talk with former U.S. attorney and perhaps prognosticator on the radio, James Santelle, our good friend. He'll join us in the 3 o'clock hour to discuss the legal travails of Rudy and maybe Trump. All things legal. Yeah, Bill Barr. Didn't they used to be buddies?
They used to be buddies.
He
Jim
used to
have nice things to say about Bill Barr. And Jim has nice things to say about everybody. I think
he's a
Jim
very
is
gracious man.
Less gracious today.
We'll see. The somewhat gracious James Santelle coming in the 3 o'clock hour. Also, Dominic, Liz Cheney. She has become something of a sympathetic person. I mean, I find myself going, I kind of feel bad for Liz Cheney. I'm cheering for the Cheneys. What the hell is wrong with me, Dom?
How bat crap crazy does this Republican Party have to be when you look at a character like Liz Cheney and think, oh, wow, that's some tough times over there.
She's one of the good ones.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
She had an op-ed in the Washington Post today, Crudy. We're not going to read the entire thing because we don't want to do a lot of reading aloud, and especially in the first segment, but I will read her concluding paragraph.
Please do.
From Liz Cheney. History is watching. Our children are watching. We must be brave enough to defend the basic principles that underpin and protect our freedom and our democratic process. I am committed to doing that no matter what the short-term political consequences might be.
Damn near seems brave, Dom.
I mean, at least in that one specific paragraph, certainly perhaps one could empathize with Cheney.
I find that very hard to believe. I mean, I'm certainly not going quail hunting with her, the old man, any of them. But Dominic, compared to, let's say, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
I mean, it's a whole world apart. But let me start with my big prognostication. And it wasn't exactly mine per se, but my big statement, Dom, and I can back this one up. Donald Trump will be your 2024 GOP presidential nominee. Now, that's different than saying he's going to win re-election or whatever that would be, leapfrogging an elective cycle. But this comes from the confirmed bachelor, pollster, and apparent gracious host, Frank Luntz.
Bunkmate?
Yeah, we talked about the other day.
Airbnb for Kevin McCarthy.
Apparently he's staying at the pollster's house.
Casa Luntz?
Pollster Frank Luntz. I would bet on Trump being the 2024 GOP nominee. I give you 3-2, Frank. Veteran GOP pollster Frank Luntz says that former President Trump could never win the 2024 general election. Well, you'd agree with him on that assessment, Dom, but he would bet on Trump to be the GOP nominee. If Donald Trump runs for president as a Republican, he's the odds-on favorite to win the nomination. Luntz said during an appearance on the New York Times podcast, Sway, released Thursday. He could never win a general election. Again? Question mark? Rudy's question. He could never win a general election, but I can't imagine losing a Republican primary. I would bet on him to be the nominee, and I would bet on him losing to whatever Democratic nominee there was. Well, that's not a hugely brave thing, Dom. The GOP is the party of Trump, but a little bit more here. Trump has repeatedly floated, but not committed to running again after losing to President Biden last year. I'm not sure that he thinks he lost, Dom. Though in interviews and public statements since leaving office, he has pledged to help Republicans regain control of the House and Senate in the 2022 midterm elections. Here's a quote. As you know, it's very early, but I think people are going to be very, very happy when I make a certain announcement, Trump told conservative pundit Candace Olson this week about a potential run for president in 2024. And Dom, we were in the room when Donald Trump took the stage at the Iowa Freedom Summit. And yep. The Citizens United event. And we were there back in January of 2015. Donald Trump, sort of a political newbie at that time. Scott Walker, the big star of the event, until Trump came on the stage. And he teased it, Dom, like he was, getting him ready for what came after the commercial break. But what he claimed is you were all going to be very, very proud of him. And the audience, mostly, Iowa Christian conservatives, they were very, very impressed by the man.
Very
and
proud.
He had them eating out of his greasy little orange palms.
Well, he's very rich, don't you know? And he was very proud to tell the Iowa people how rich he was.
Well, here's the real important part, Dom. For campaign finance reasons, you really can't do it too early because it becomes a whole different thing. For him to grift anew, he needs to declare eventually that he's running for president. Otherwise, I think you give an answer that you'd be pretty happy with. So we're looking at a very, very seriously, he said, this being Trump, adding, all I'd say is stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm not sure if that's a threat or a promise, Dom. A little bit more here. Luntz, who has been critical of Trump for peddling false claims of widespread voter fraud about the 2020 election, said his research indicates the former president's messaging is working with the base, the GOP base. More than 2/3 of Republicans believe the election was stolen, Luntz reported. And Donald Trump is actually telling people it's not worth it to vote. Donald Trump single-handedly may cause people not to vote, and he may be the greatest tool in the Democrats' arsenal to keep control of the House and Senate in 2022. So there's your silver lining. The same guy that says Trump will still be your nominee in 2024, you conservatives, also said Trump may suppress his own party's turnout in the midterms. We'll see, Dom.
Well, Luntz also goes on to say that while he does believe Trump would be the GOP candidate, that he would lose to the Democrat. But I tell you what, man, he is Luntz taking into account any of the legal headwinds that Trump and his organization are facing right now. I mean, literally right now. The Cyrus Vance Manhattan DA investigation, Tish James, New York Attorney General, their investigation into the Trump organization.
All those cases will take years to settle.
It's going to be years before the 2024 election, man. These things will happen. I would imagine Cy Vance has announced his retirement. Something will happen at the end of this year in August, something like that. There will be movement in those cases before then.
From the nation's prior experience with Donald Trump, Dom, you know damn well he's going to delay. He'll have legal pleadings and defenses, claim it was something about the presidency, and his own lawyer, has got privilege but shouldn't have privilege. There'll be plenty of pleadings. but it will be years before the guy sits in a court of law as a defendant in a criminal case. Years.
No way. No way. The CFO rolls over on him. Rudy Giuliani rolls over on him. He cannot delay for 4 years. And even if that were to be the case, Rudy, you think the GOP is going to want to go and support him while he has these obvious court issues? While E. Jean Carroll may prove that Trump's DNA is on the dress? You think they're going to want to go there? I don't think so.
They heard the Access Hollywood tape. They heard him bragging to Billy Bush about taking the woman furniture shopping.
It was all just locker room talk, Rudy.
There have been
this is verifiable DNA. If that becomes the case, you don't think that changes the equation?
No. Deep State did that. Deep State.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Dom, unless the guy's in shackles and in a federal prison, he is still your presumptive Republican nominee. Not just because he's been charged, because, of course, he was accused. Those partisan prosecutions, what do you think it was? It was a witch hunt trial, not once, but twice, that impeachment process. Well, of course, what do you expect? They're doing it to me. They're trying to wound me so I can't go run for president again. Please send me money so I can use it for my defense. You know what? Here's the biggest mistake he's made to date, though. Donald Trump, post-presidency, not paying for Rudy Giuliani's legal defense. That's a big mistake. He's being greedy. He raised $250 million, and he's not letting his own mafia consigliere get his beak wet. I mean, the guy's facing significant charges, talking about Giuliani, and Trump's got money he raised specifically for what lawsuits and legal defenses or whatever other thing he wants to do. It's all super PAC, all post-election day. And when Rudy Giuliani, the guy who's got to have the goods on Trump, if there are goods between Michael Cohen and Rudy Giuliani, maybe the guy, the CFO over at the Trump org, those three guys really control Donald Trump's future. And of course, Rudy wants to keep his own greasy ass out of prison. Dom, wouldn't we all? And he might roll up on Trump. But even from that position, let's not forget the federal lawsuit that Trump started fighting in 1976, settled in the 1990s, and then never honored to this day. It's been like 50, 60 years. The guy never did what the judgment said. They're going to have to throw his ass in prison, or he's your Republican GOP nominee for 2024. More Devils, always first in your hearts. Come back with us.
We will be back in some form.
You want this, don't you?
That's disgusting. Put it away, please. We don't do that.
And when you're starved, they let you do it. You can do anything.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hungered in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Darren from Madison tells us he's a former Capitol Police officer.
You can't even compare the two of what happened, yesterday and with Act 10.
Darren, did you as a Capitol Police officer ever witness any violence in the Wisconsin State Capitol?
Nope, not at all. It's about as peaceful can be when it comes to peaceful protesting. It was an unlawful assembly. But at the end of the day, there was no violence at the end of the day. It was people coming in and singing.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us at 844-967-2789. Do it this hour because we have James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney, going to join us at 3 o'clock. Also, do not forget, and perhaps we failed to mention this, John Nichols from The Nation going to join us at 3:30. He's going to tell us why Liz Cheney is not our friend.
John Nichols is our friend.
John Nichols is definitely our friend.
But Liz Cheney, not a friend.
Not so much.
Just for the record, Don, we'll see how it goes. Invited Caitlyn Jenner on the show. After her fine appearance on Hannity, I thought she really couldn't do much worse. Come on, the Devil's Advocates.
What's the worst that could happen?
We'll see how we'll see how it goes with her fine comms team. Marty, we see you on the phones. You can be first if you're a little patient. But Don, what were you telling me? We talked about Frank Luntz, the Republican pollster, and we learned a lot about Frank Luntz recently. Frank Luntz has a marvelous mansion that apparently is in some small part a replica of the White House.
Strange.
At least he's got an Oval Office, a Lincoln bedroom,
and a blue Monica Lewinsky dress.
DNA question mark?
Is it legit? Is it signed by Clinton? You know what I mean?
You'll have to get the Ancestry.com to find out. Dom, above and beyond that, we found out that he had a roommate, and we found out because somebody tipped off Tucker Carlson, apparently, and Tucker took some issue with the fact that the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, has been crashing over at Frank Luntz's Brentwood mansion. Why would he do that, Dom? Now, Luntz, a confirmed bachelor of some renown, I'm not clear if it's, Lindsey Graham sort of confirmed bachelor, but Kevin McCarthy, a married man. Why wouldn't he stay at his own house is my only question. But Dom, you've got something from Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And
what'd she say?
This is, I think, by comparison, which makes me in some ways feel a little sympathetic to someone like Liz Cheney, but we'll get to that at 3:30 and we'll remind everybody why I do not feel sympathetic for that person.
You say by comparison, that's like saying, by comparison to broccoli, liver ain't so bad.
Exactly. Marjorie Taylor Greene from Matthew Chapman at the Raw Story says her colleagues are not qualified and then suggests that McCarthy is a gay lover of Frank Luntz. What?
I can't imagine anyone would make implications like that. Certainly not on the radio airwaves.
On Wednesday, Fox News' Tucker Carlson interviewed infamous far-right pro-QAnon rep Marjorie Taylor Greene on his streaming radio show, and the conversation went off the rails repeatedly. At one point, Greene suggested that other members of Congress are not qualified to be in their roles. Here's a quote. When I got to Congress, I found out. Here's why the business. It's a business. That's what Congress is. It runs the country. This is why this business is failing, because most of the people there are not qualified to be there.
Starting with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Greene was stripped of her House committee assignment shortly after taking office as punishment for past social media endorsements of executions of prominent Democrats. At another point, she and Carlson speculated that the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy might be in a homosexual affair with Frank Luntz, a longtime Republican pollster who's been critical of former President Trump. Quote, I was more curious, like, who gets the top bunk and who gets the bottom bunk, she said in response to Carlson saying, were you shocked to learn they share a toothbrush or are roommates or whatever? Marjorie Taylor Greene makes Liz Cheney look sympathetic. That's how batcrap crazy the Republican cult is these days.
That's interesting. Sad, but interesting. And the Marjorie, why would Tucker join in? Why would he cast gay aspersions on the married minority leader? Because the guy stayed over at confirmed bachelor Frank Luntz's house. I mean, even if Luntz is gay, and I have no idea, I'm just throwing it out there because every time I read an article, he's confirmed bachelor.
Republicans
Frank
might
Luntz.
care, but I don't care.
Well, you know, he's probably lonely in that big mansion, Dom. 16,000 square feet, $6.25 million, and no friends in the house. Well, we were roommates in college. We shared some whatever. You know, draw your own implications here, but let's just say you'll never be Speaker of the House.
Yeah. Well, there's never been any roaches laying around the house either. 844-967-2789. We got some callers waiting. Let's get to them. Marty from Madison, you are up. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Marty.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, sir.
I want to know how Dan could be the 2024 nominee without changing the Constitution so he could have a third term. Because if you ask him, he's currently the president, right? So that's his second term.
Well, you know, wouldn't it be worth it,
Marty,
for the country's sake?
It would, yeah.
Marty,
put it down.
Would you like to see Trump running for president again? I mean, I got to say, personally, as a guy who does a talk radio show, I would like to see that. I would enjoy that elective cycle immensely.
Yes, for comedic purposes, but you know, he did it once. I don't know.
Well, and I get it, Marty, for comedic purposes, for, you know, something to talk about, and I can appreciate that. And sorry, you got a bad line, man, but we appreciate your call. But, you know, I'd rather have to dig a little harder past the headlines to, you know, find things to discuss as a talk radio host than worry about whether or not Rome is burning and Trump is fiddling, man. I'd rather have some, you know, good governance. And let's talk about, you know, how high the taxes should be and whether or not we should, you know, legalize marijuana, you know, like regular conversations, not whether or not the president is neck deep in with the Russians or compromised with PP tapes.
Yeah, but as
again,
electoral campaign cycle, I mean, come on, we're in it for the politics. I'm a junkie. You're a junkie.
But is that politics? I mean, you know, Trump's PP tape, Trump's sexual assaults, Trump's tax evasion, Trump's insurance fraud, his bank fraud. I mean, is that the politics you really want to talk about?
Well, Joe Biden's boring.
Thank God.
Come back with us. Never boring. Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls could be next at 844-967-2789.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I love women, but they're extremely primitive. They're basic. They're not that hard to understand.
I know what I saw.
Peas.
You've merely made radio your ally. I was born on the radio. Devil Radio 92.7.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
Understanding the needs and goals of your improvement project is something my family has done for 3 generations, and that doesn't stop when times get tough. Al Bachman here. At Bachman Construction, we've seen it all. Everything from a simple back patio to moving historic homes a quarter of a mile down the road. Give Bachman Construction a call and let us know how we can create a better value for your space today.
AP News Minute. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a new election reform bill into law. Speaking on Fox News Channel, the governor says it will protect against fraud.
This keeps us ahead of the curve. We put a lot of effort into last election, and we wanted to make sure we did it well. We had 11 million votes counted by midnight, 99%. We think this will make it even better.
DeSantis and Republicans in Florida have acknowledged there were no serious signs of voting irregularities last November. Deputy White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says Florida is moving in the wrong direction.
There's no legitimate reason to change the rules right now to make it harder to vote. That's built on a lie. The only reason to change the rules right now is if you don't like who voted, and that should be out of bounds.
Critics say the changes in Florida will make it harder for voters, particularly the elderly and people of color, to cast ballots. I'm Ed Donahue.
I need these boxes in bin 7. Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to call in and find out when next...
Whitney's warehouse foreman just retired, and the replacement needs to move to fulfillment.
Hold on. Guys, can we get the dock cleared now?
Indeed can help her hire the people she needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Radio. For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Thursday, May 6th. The Republican-led Joint Finance Committee was scheduled to begin its budget hearing this morning at 11, but was delayed when protesters organized by Voces de la Frontera blocked one of the doors to the hearing room. The organization was protesting the GOP-backed attempt to remove in-state tuition prices and driver's licenses for undocumented individuals in Wisconsin, two aspects within Governor Tony Evers' budget proposal that are expected to be thrown out during today's hearing. Earlier this week, Republican leaders in the legislature sent a letter to Governor Tony Evers requesting a meeting for how the governor plans to spend the state's $3.2 billion in federal stimulus funds from the American Rescue Plan. Today, Governor Tony Evers sent a return letter accepting the meeting as long as the legislative leaders come with a plan to expand Badger Care in the state. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dom, we're going to take more calls this hour because next hour we got it stuffed up. Two fine guests, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle and our friend John Nichols from The Nation, telling us Liz Cheney ain't our friend. But no. We'll talk with John next hour about that topic. We'll talk to you about anything you want at 844-967-2789 within certain limitations. But Dominic wanted to talk about some kids that thwarted a kidnapping. This was a crazy story. I couldn't believe this story was true. A trainee stole his rifle, left base. Apparently it had enough. And I've been to basic training. And they warn you at basic training, if you even turn your gun downrange, away from downrange in an unsafe fashion, they'll kill your ass. Don't be pulling that gun and pointing it back anywhere near the drill sergeants, etc. Well, how this guy got off base with a gun and got on a elementary school bus and kidnapped all these kids and had them all come up to the front of the bus. And the bus driver apparently remained quite calm. And then the kids pestered this kidnapper into submission, Dom. My kids used to do that. Why?
We're there yet?
Why?
Are we there yet?
Why?
Are we there yet?
Why? You can just imagine 40 of these little booger snotting little kids. And I mean, it's got to be a scary situation, but in some way, shape, or form, a lot of stuff's scary when you're a kid. You gonna hurt us? You gonna hurt the bus driver?
What you doing? Where are we going? Where are you from?
Does this mean I get to skip lunch today?
Can I sit in the back? Can we move?
Now we've got some of the sound.
Johnny pulled my pigtails.
My dad says people like you are sad.
And probably have a small penis. A little bit more. We've got sound. What the cop, the sheriff, right, Dom? Leon Lott, not Leon Lett.
Leon Lott.
Let's play the sound. This is an unusual story. Sheriff Leon Lott. This was a South Carolina bus hijacking, and there were kids on the bus. Cut 80.
Probably one of the scariest calls that we could get in law enforcement and as a school district is that a school bus has been hijacked with kids on it with someone with a gun. And that's what we had this morning.
Yeah, scary.
Bright implied, have you had other scarier calls than that?
Or is this like a commonplace call, but then like of the calls, this is the scariest? Just seems like he's had this before.
Let's hear more of the Sheriff Leon Lott, 81, please.
That parent told our deputy that this child was on the school bus and there was a man with a gun on the school bus.
Apparently an Army trainee with a rifle, as Curdy mentioned, 82.
After all the kids got on the bus, the trainee got on the bus, dressed in his PT clothes with a rifle, and told the bus driver that he didn't want to hurt him, but he wanted him to drive him to the next town.
PT clothes, that means your gym stuff, physical exercise stuff. So how do you get the rifle out there? I guess this guy's probably not going to know the answer to that question, but as a guy that served in the military, it's not like you get to take your gun with you anywhere. You know, they put it in the armory. You don't walk around campus.
Come on, man. You were in the military a long time ago. Maybe they changed their process since then.
Liberalized the Second Amendment for soldiers.
I mean,
we're not
30,
in an active
30 years ago,
war
Rudy?
mode,
How
right?
long were you and how long ago was it that you were at boot camp?
It's been 30 years, sure. The Army didn't change that much, but please.
Army training, sir. Sheriff goes on to say, the kids, well, they started asking questions, 83.
The kids started asking lots of questions to the suspect if he was going to hurt them, or the bus driver.
And eventually the kidnapper, under the brutal questioning of the children, relented and let the kids and the bus driver off. That's our understanding of the story. But this guy's going to face lots of charges. Cut 84.
He'll be charged with multiple counts of kidnapping and whatever charges that we can put on him.
A little bit more. Sheriff Leon Lott, South Carolina, about a hijacking of a elementary school bus. The driver, he kept his cool. Well, he drives kids to school every day. He's got to keep his cool. Cut 85.
Right.
I will give the bus driver credit. He kept his cool. He didn't overreact. He didn't get excited. He kept his cool enough that kept the situation calm. And I will tell you, his main concern was the safety of those kids, and he did his job.
A little bit more about the kids. Cut 86, Sheriff Leon Lott.
The kids are safe physically. Now we just have to address them psychologically and mentally.
Wow, what a story. And so happy with all the mass shootings and terrible, things we talk about sometimes, to have a story like this where, the kids, essentially ragged on the guy long enough. He couldn't take it anymore. And it all just kind of worked out. And what a wonderful end to a certainly terrible circumstance.
So the kids, the heroes here, maybe throwing the bus driver as well. But
yes, no doubt.
My kids never talked to kidnapper out of kidnapping them. I'm sure they could, though.
I was going to say, does this happen often enough that they've disappointed you before?
Well, it's the worst call you can get, let me tell you.
In previous kidnappings, they did disappointed in their performance.
One of the several really bad calls you can get in life. 844-967-27. That's not going to come off right as we go to the phones. I apologize, Mark. You are always a welcome caller. Welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Mark.
Hey guys. Well, for McCarthy and Luntz, I mean, maybe they're like Roger Stone. They're not gay, but they just like having sex with men.
Right.
So that's something Roger Stone has just come up with, and you wonder if it's true for a lot of these Republicans that part of the whole He-Man Women Haters Club that they seem to belong in is, put women in their place. That maybe they have kind of like a ancient Greek philosophy that women are for producing, the offspring, but your true companions in life are your fellow men, and that I can't wrap my head around that idea.
Well, even if that were to be the case, Mark, if
Not
they just
that there's
accepted
anything
that,
wrong
right?
with
Would
that.
they be happier human beings if they just were like, well, this is how it is, and I'm okay with that?
Well, and they just can't do that because that's not part of their, if they accept what they are, and I'm not saying that that's who they are, but I mean that you'd see that for a lot of these guys, it'd be a heck of a lot happier world if people would just accept who they are, what their particular tastes are, if that's the right word for this, and just lead a happy life. I mean that rather than making other people's lives miserable and and condemn people for wanting to take joy out of life, because that's that the only thing we're guaranteed with right now is the life that we have, and we're supposed to be good to one another, and hopefully there's something beyond this, but if there's not, we just have to be kind to one another. That's the what, like Jesus said, be kind to one another, take care of your fellow man. I mean that's what our job should be.
Yeah, but Captain Jack Sparrow said, take what you can and give nothing back. Thanks for the call, man.
If these Republicans were not so fearful and of homosexuality, I guess is what I'm talking about. If they weren't so fearful of the homosexuals, until you're Dick Cheney and one of your kids is gay, and then you find compassion in your heart. But of course, so many of them are driven by evangelical Christianity, or at least the pursuit of those votes. They got to find the gays abhorrent, Dom.
Homosexuality is not something that we should be supporting.
Who is that? Glenn Grossman from
Grossman.
Wisconsin?
Yeah, another confirmed bachelor, I believe.
Yes, self-loathing, one must question. Well, if you look like Glenn, we'd all be self-loathing. 844-967-2789. I don't think Glenn's gay. If he was gay, he'd have better fashion sense.
Wow. 844-96-PARTY. We're going to do the D-bag of the day in the next segment. Got to throw this one out there, though, because what? Law and crime reporting. Arizona election auditors check ballots for bamboo fibers after conspiracy theorists claim 40,000 votes were flown in from Asia. What?
If you pour water on that paper, will it grow up and go underneath your fingernails, Tom?
In an interview with journalist Dennis Welch of local CBS affiliate KTVK, Tucson resident and volunteer observer John Brakey explained the bamboo theory in greater detail. Quote, well, there's accusations that 40,000 ballots were flown into Arizona and stuffed into a box, okay? And it came from southeast part of the world, Asia. And what they're doing is to find out if there's bamboo in the paper, Brakey said. He then gestured to a piece of equipment that wasn't captured in the video interview, but which was apparently being used to take extremely high-definition photographs of individual ballots for inspection. That camera right there that they use to take the picture of the ballot, they can really look at depth and find out, is it a hand-marked paper ballot because it's a 5K camera? You can see the folds in the ballot because 92% of all the ballots here should have been folded because they came through an envelope, he said, adding he was on a mission for facts. Well,
a mission from God, you say?
Well,
seeking bamboo for truth, justice, and the American way.
Full pack of cigarettes, half a tank of gas. It's midnight and we're wearing sunglasses. Welch then asked Brakey, who explicitly stated that he did not believe the bamboo fraud theory, why auditors would be interested in finding bamboo. Because they use bamboo in their paper processing. Brakey responded, specifying that by they, he meant people in Southeast Asia. I don't believe any of that, Brakey said. I'm just saying that is part of the mystery that we want to ungaslight people about, and this is the way to do it.
China. It's China's fault. And China apparently incorporates bamboo in the paper, and if you use the 5K camera and you compare it with the folds of the envelope, you will discern that China dropped 40,000 additional ballots for Joe Biden, presumably. Now, are you actually going to look at the ballots? What if they're Trump ballots on bamboo paper?
Well, that's a hell
What's
of a
that
question.
mean, right?
Right.
I mean, he just didn't have a stack of 40,000 consecutive Joe Biden votes. But
also, what is the random, there's accusations that 40,000 ballots were flown in. What accusations by whom?
I've got accusations about.
I heard you just report on it, so I've heard it from somebody.
The ballots in Arizona, Dom, my understanding, word on the street is made out of hemp paper. And if you put some cannabis and you roll those ballots up, you can smoke them like a joint.
You get high as a mofo. Come on. I mean, don't you need some sort of validate? I mean, you can't just accept wild accusations. Can you?
The whole underlying pursuit of this audit is predicated on the pursuit of wild accusations. Are you freaking kidding me? Why not go full Q? Why not look for bamboo in the paper? Hell, I'd be looking for lead in the water.
Then what is the limit? If I post something online that on a QAnon site and they pick it up, they're just going to run with it?
Well, you got to be on 8chan.
This is what we're down to now? This is the Republican Party. This is what they're looking for? Bamboo?
That is why, by contrast, somehow, Liz Cheney seems somewhat sympathetic.
Just a little bit more on this very topic from the AP, a little more serious discussion here.
I like the kids talking the kidnapper down better story, but please continue.
The U.S. Department of Justice expressed concern Wednesday about ballot security and potential voter intimidation arising from the Republican-controlled Arizona Senate's unprecedented private recount of the results in Maricopa County. In a letter to GOP Senate President Karen Fann, the head of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, said the Senate's farming out of 2.1 million ballots from the state's most populous county to a contractor may run afoul of federal law requiring ballots to remain in control of election officials for 22 months.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We know we're your heroes. And the show continues with the awarding of a very prestigious honor, D-Bag of the day. Come back, more Devils.
I'm going to be your sheriff. You're going to be my deputy trainees.
I'm 10 years old, but I'll beat your ass.
You're not going to have your mommy's run behind you anymore and wipe your little douches.
I'm going to scissor kick you in the back of the head.
There is no bathroom.
I'm going to come at you like a spider monkey.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Hold.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
I'm not a big fan of righty-whitey talk radio, but if I'm going to tune in even for an hour a day, I really wish they'd have a live host. You know, they've still got a Rush Limbaugh show, and the guy's been dead for a couple months.
Playing like Best of Dead Rush.
Do you know how weird that is? I make you this promise, Dom, after I'm dead, you don't have to keep playing my sound bites. Although I'm hoping you go first.
The Devil's Advocates, weekdays from 2 to 5.
kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open 844-967-2789. And if you have not yet downloaded the Devil Radio app, why not? Go to the Apple Store, the Google Store, search for Devil Radio. You can take us anywhere you go.
Dominic, I've been quite excited about the new app.
I know, dude. It's sweet.
Well, more people can listen to us easier. And we love you for listening on the app because then we know you're there. And if you allow me to push messages on the app, I can tell you who our fine guests are. People like James Santelle and John Nichols coming up in the 3 o'clock Central Time hour. But Dom, the most important part of the day, the nominating and the awarding of D-Bag of the Day. D-Bag of the Day.
Curdy, I think I will go first.
If you must.
I think I have to here. And I take a little, well, that wouldn't be right then. You would be going first. Take a little glee in this one. Got to thank our pal Jeff for sending this our way. From the Huff Post, former President Donald Trump's most recent attempt to get a platform has been upended. On the heels of the launch of his new webpage from the desk of Donald J. Trump on Wednesday, the former president's team created the handle @DJTDesk on Twitter. And by Wednesday night, the account had been suspended. As stated in our ban evasion policy, we'll take enforcement action on accounts whose apparent intent is to replace or promote content affiliated with a suspended account, a spokesperson for Twitter said in a statement. Trump's From the Desk page is essentially a blog with a timeline format that resembles both Twitter and Facebook's platforms. In the site's brief life thus far, Trump has made a series of scattered combative posts attacking the likes of Rep. Liz Cheney, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He's also lambasted Twitter, Facebook, and Google by name, which of course I find very ironic since the very Twitter you are lambasting by name, you're trying to sneak in the back door at @DJTDesk. Ha! What a loser. Donald Trump, you are a D-bag.
D-bag. D-bag. I thought I was going to do the Trump D-bagish sneaking onto Twitter.
Oh, man, I thought you were doing the other guy.
No, I don't feel like it. Hasn't inspired me in the same way. I did recommend him for this post. I'll nominate him. And maybe you can help me carry him across the finish line, Dom. Ron DeSantis. Got a little article here. Eric Wimple at the Washington Post. Ron DeSantis, of course, the governor of Florida, and signed his own Jim Crow 2.0 voter laws into effect today. And that's pretty bad. And of course, we know that these Republicans have every intent of changing the electorate if they can, suppressing the votes of those that would not support them. But Ron DeSantis goes a step further. When Ron DeSantis signs this bill, he does so with only one media outlet allowed in the room. Fox and Friends. The guy signed the bill.
OAN's going to be pissed.
On Fox and Friends, a little bit from the Post, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis cannot have been displeased with any aspect of the impeccably produced propaganda show that Fox and Friends staged for him Thursday morning. First came a soundbite from Caitlyn Jenner, a California gubernatorial hopeful, during a session on Hannity recently. Florida Orlando Disney World opened up 9 months ago. Anaheim Disneyland opened up 6 days ago, said Jenner, referring to Florida as one of the successful COVID states. At that, co-host Ainsley Earhart turned to DeSantis, who was sitting at the desk in Palm Beach, surrounded by a group of supporters. I appreciate it, said DeSantis of Jenner's kind words. There were a lot of appreciation in the air as DeSantis discussed how Florida had managed its rainy day fund throughout the pandemic. Wow, commented one of the co-hosts. The tough questions, they always come on Fox, right?
Wow.
The Fox and Friends crew nodded along with other DeSantis talking points about unemployment distribution of federal funds and the state's treatment of police officers. You support them, said Earhart. Now, remember, the Earhart airhead is dating Sean Hannity, so consider her taste a little bit more. Then co-host Brian Kilmeade showed just how scripted was this session. So after the pandemic, Governor, a lot of people loosened up the rules, and because a lot of people didn't want to come out of the house, there were drop boxes, no excuse mail-in balloting, and things to that nature. After years of struggling on Election Day and maybe extending it too long, most famously in 2000, you guys pretty much pulled it off flawlessly the last time around, and you were able to get the results in. Now it's time for people to rein in and have a non-pandemic election. In over 30 states, they've made reforms. You're doing that same thing. What's going on? What's going to be different about Florida's election in 22? What are you about to sign? Nice setup. I mean, why would the governor of the state of Wisconsin come on this fine show for, bill signing parties, Dom? Now, do we have any of this sound, just so I'm clear? The Foxy sound. Let's play a little of the Foxy sound if we got it for the people. Let's talk about the bill and the D-bag signing it, the D-bag media outlet that's covering it, the Foxy Friends. Let's start with DeSantis. Cut 50.
It's one thing to have a family member take, fine, but to have these paid operatives go out there and do it like they do in California and like they do in some of these other states, that's a big, big problem.
No, it's not. No, it's not. More from D-bag nominee Ron DeSantis, cut 51.
Voting is supposed to be a secret ballot. You're supposed to go in, you have the booth and all this stuff. And then when you have ballot harvesting, you have people that are going around and messing around with other people's votes like that. I think it's terrible for our country. So Florida, we just said no.
In Florida, we just said no. More from Ron DeSantis, the voting rights ? Bill being signed into law at the signing ceremony. National broadcast, Foxy News, cut 52.
It was live on national television on Fox and Friends, and we were happy to give them the exclusive on that. And I think it went really, really well. But that's broadcast to millions of people.
Broadcast or fraudcast?
Nice.
I mean, really, when you have one partisan media outlet into cover a bill signing, and the bill you're signing makes it harder to vote in your state, but of course, don't call it that so much. You mischaracterize that. Protect election integrity. Even though we were super cool and we did it great the last time, we're going to do it greater. We're going to make Florida voting greater again. And you do it on Foxy News and you don't get any pushback. And, between the outlet D-bags and the governor D-bags, who's worse?
Oof. That's a tough one, Crudy. I think it's going to have to be Ron DeSantis, D-bag of the day, voter suppression in front of the D-bags at Fox News. You are today's winner.
D-bag of the day. I feel quite confident we'll come back for Foxy News someday soon. Now, you, our fair audience, stick around. We got a couple of fine guests joining us in the 3 o'clock hour, stuffing it full of greatness, including former U.S. Attorney James Santelle and John Nichols from The Nation. You're going to want to stick around on the Devil Radio app. More Devil's Advocates. It starts right now. D-bag.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Messaging data rates may apply. MoveOn.org, political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, I'm Ryan from Downdren's Distilling. We're a small batch craft distillery in the heart of Cottage Grove. Downdren's Distilling offers live music in our giant cocktail garden, along with a kids' playground and tasting room. We produce a variety of spirits from cherry rum to a spicy pepper vodka. I invite you to have your next cocktail at Downdren's Distilling. 300 Progress Drive, Cottage Grove. Please like us on Facebook and visit downdrensdistilling.com for updates and specials. Can't wait to see you at Downdren's Distilling.
Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News, I'm Ed Donahue.
President Biden went to Lake Charles, Louisiana, in front of a 70-year-old bridge that is 20 years past its design lifespan. He says his infrastructure plan is just what the economy needs.
This is about creating jobs and also saving lives.
Republicans aren't willing to pay for what the president wants, $2.3 trillion.
I'm ready to compromise. What I'm not ready to do, I'm not ready to do nothing. I'm not ready to have another period where America has another infrastructure month and doesn't change a damn thing.
President Biden wants to pay for his plan by raising the corporate tax rate and undoing the 2017 tax cuts signed into law by President Trump. A new study and Census Bureau data shows people moved out of the nation's largest metropolitan areas and into smaller ones during the pandemic. Top military leaders say withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan is going according to plan and believe the country's troops are prepared. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Mark Milley says Afghan troop training will continue.
We'll also continue to take a look at training them in perhaps other locations. We don't know. We haven't figured that out 100% yet.
President Biden announced last month all American troops will withdraw from Afghanistan by September 11th. The Biden administration is detailing steps to achieve an ambitious goal to conserve nearly 1/3 of America's lands and waters by 2030. Critics are calling it un-American. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a rewrite of the state election laws. Rules have been tightened in Florida involving drop boxes and mail-in balloting. 2 students and a custodian were shot and wounded at a middle school in Idaho. Police say a student is in custody. 1 woman died. Several of the people were injured when a driver struck a group of people in the parking lot of a restaurant outside of Houston early this morning following a reported fight. The driver is in custody. This is AP News.
I need these boxes in bin 7. Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to call in and find out when next...
Whitney's warehouse foreman just retired, and the replacement needs to move to fulfillment.
Hold on. Guys, can we get the dock cleared now?
Indeed can help her hire the people she needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
My name is Rocker, and this is my vodka. Rocker Vodka is distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Find Rocker Vodka at Woodman's, Festival Foods, Trixie's Liquor, Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Willie Street Co-op, Total Wine, Vic Pierce, Miller's Market, Cambridge Cooler. Find more at rockervodka.com. It's yummy. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Wisconsin is getting back to doing what it does best, enjoying themselves with friends and neighbors. If you're looking for a night out or kick-ass food, Johnny's Lounge in Beaver Dam is your place. Located at 519 Madison Street, right on the lake, Johnny's Lounge is a big patio with amazing views and a fun staff. Drink specials every night. Bar dice, flip cup, incredible burgers, kitchen open late, everything a Wisconsinite could want. Johnny's Lounge in Beaver Dam. It may not be possible to have too much fun, but we sure try.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting.
How is Jim Santelle today?
Zero red.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Palindrome ever. It's also our
Glorious and magical.
They advertise with us.
My sound is okay.
Yeah, your sound's okay.
And carpet cleaner.
Get the best carpet cleaning ever.
It's going to be even better when we're talking about stuff. And things.
Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
All right, man, you got a minute and a half.
All right, thanks so much,
for the
Brian.
greatest radio app ever. Check out the Devil Radio app in the Apple and Google Play stores today and stream the greatest radio station ever wherever you go. The Devil Radio app, streaming 24/7 right from your smartphone.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6, don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Thursday, May 6th. According to the state's nonpartisan Legislative Fiscal Bureau, Wisconsin Republicans are set to create a $3.4 billion hole in the upcoming budget discussions. The Republican-led Joint Finance Committee will begin voting today on eliminating aspects of the proposal Governor Tony Evers submitted to the legislature earlier this year. The items expected to be eliminated include $1.6 billion in federal funds to expand badger care in the state. Without the various aspects of Governor Evers' budget proposal, Republicans in the legislature will have to cut other state programs to make up for the $3.4 billion budget gap. Forecast of light rain this morning, turning to partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a high of 58 degrees. Partly cloudy skies to continue overnight with a gradual clearing throughout the evening and a slight chance for rain, low of 41 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we got a fine guest right from the top. He is our good friend and former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. He joins us right now, live via Zoom. Jim, welcome back. Can't say it's far too long, but always great to have you come round, Jim.
And it is always good to be with you, especially 750 days later, it surfaces again. The Mueller report is back.
Well, let's start with your public flogging, sir, for prior admiration you expressed for the Attorney General of the United States. And I don't recall how long it was ago that you appeared on this fine program and said, oh, no, Bill Barr, I respect the man. Well, I suspect your respect has been tempered. What happened with Bill Barr? And I believe the judge in this case was Amy Berman Jackson. And what was at issue was how Barr had responded to the Mueller report in regards to Trump's possible obstruction of justice. I don't know if I laid it all out perfectly, Counselor. That's why we bring you by. But first and foremost, apologize again for ever admiring Bill Barr.
The words that I spoke about him being an institutional fellow, I have rescinded many times, including a month or so, actually days after he issued that letter back in March of 2019, the day that, frankly, Dom, you and I were together on the air talking about this report hours after it was released. And at that time, we knew, as does America, that the former Attorney General, and here I will once again eat crow, had basically misrepresented, I will use the L word, lied to the American public about what was in this report, both first sections and second sections with respect to Russia, and then also about obstruction of justice. So at the time, Bill Barr not only said that there was no reason to believe that President Trump had engaged in any violations of the law under obstruction of justice, but significantly, he went to Congress after that and said that he had relied not only upon his analysis very quickly of a 450-page report, took me all weekend and beyond to read this, to come to that conclusion, and that he had relied also upon an office called the Office of Legal Counsel to prepare for him a memorandum, summarizing this, presumably making a recommendation about whether or not any of these 10 instances of obstruction of justice should be the predicates for a prosecution of the president. That's the memorandum that Amy Berman Jackson, U.S. District Judge in the District of Columbia, has got in her possession. That's the one that she now says, I'm going to release because, as you indicated, Mike, at the outset, it does not it flies in the face of what the former Attorney General said. It basically presents an entirely different story. We don't have all the content of it, but plainly that's what this is all about.
Jim Santelle, there is no statute of limitations on our ball-busted view over Bill Barr, but the obstruction of justice, or perhaps the criminal obstruction of justice, that's coming up about a year from now. You brought it to our attention. Tell the audience what you told us.
Sure. So all of those events, again, there are about 10 of them all together. I would say most people say about 6 to 8 of them are prosecutable, but they all happened in March, April, May, June of 2017. They include things like firing the former director of the FBI, Jim Comey. They include things like telling Don McGahn to lie to the American public about the reasons for that. All kinds of things that happened in the spring of 2017, the first months of the Trump administration. All of those have a 5-year statute of limitations on them. I'm not good at assessing Attorney General integrity, but I am good at math, at least when it comes to simple arithmetic. 2017 plus 5 brings you to 2022, which means that we're now about a year, frankly, 10, 11 months from all of these events not being the possibility for prosecuting these events in any forum. And so there is still an option to do that, but that's where the statute falls as of today, as we meet now in early May of 2021.
Jim, we don't know the entirety of what's contained in the letter drafted by Barr. Lots of redactions, even the judge's ruling, and apparently she redacted certain parts of her letter that currently reflect the challenged portions of what it is that Barr said or represented. But here's my question of you, sir. Is Barr in legal jeopardy for perjury or some other crime? Is it theoretically possible that the former attorney general could become, inmate number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sir?
He has both some very public problems now with respect to the things he said to all of us and to the American public. As an aside, I'll pull out those portions of the Mueller report that drive you crazy, those watching on
the blank black page, because it's
exactly right. And so what Amy Berman Jackson did is she reprinted portions of this memorandum, did the same thing in her order, anticipating that one day that would be released. To your question, as I said before, this attorney general not only lied to us publicly, but also appeared in front of Congress and made some statements under oath. If he lied about that circumstance, the things that he was relying upon, representations made to Congress, that, as we know from many other cases, is perjury. That is prosecutable. And again, depending upon where this goes, other things, it's always like pulling these threads. You never know what may be out there. We've long suspected that there may be some other problems with this, but that's the one that I see right now. Misrepresentation under oath about the bases for your decisions. You don't have to, public statements may or may not be the subject of criminal activity, but that is, and that's where I think he's got some exposure here.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We have our pal, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, joining us via the Zoom. Jim, good to talk to you as always. I did see a clip of an interaction between now Vice President Harris and AG Barr at the time, and she was really getting on him, and he was being kind of evasive, in my opinion. So we have potentially a perjury charge because he lied to Congress while under oath. What about lying to a federal judge as the head of the Justice Department? Can anything be done to prosecute him for that?
Sure. And so what you have here, of course, is Amy Berman Jackson in this same order that she issued us yesterday, saying, you know what, in addition to this memorandum being problematic, you lied to me, attorneys for the Department of Justice, about what that says. Now, Bill Barr himself didn't say that, but plainly the attorneys appearing before Amy Berman Jackson did, and she takes them, but throws them, frankly, the problem that she now has before her, which is, in addition to the document, the misrepresentations that they made. This is a serious matter too. It is contempt. It is contempt of court. To lie to a judge. She plainly is angry about this. She makes those comments. She says, you've been disingenuous in your assertions, Mr. Attorney General. And again, that's the sanction there for lying to a judge. In addition, of course, when you lie to the judge, this is the same judge who has had experience with this. She was the one who tried Paul Manafort. She tried Roger Stone. This is the same judge who's had experience with this kind of thing. It doesn't go well for you long-term substantively. And so there's that issue as well, right? The misrepresentations that she feels were made by the former Attorney General through his Justice Department attorneys to her about the content of that memorandum. She's now read it all and she says, you know what? That's not what you said. That's a problem.
Well, I would imagine if I lied to a federal judge, Jim, I would face some serious consequences. And if I lied under oath to a congressional committee, there would be consequences to that too. I'm looking for the same consequences that would be applied to me to be applied to him. Jim, is there any enhancer for the circumstances of the lies? Because again, this was for obstruction of justice into an investigation of now the sitting president, who presumably got that job through the help of a foreign adversary, and they lied about it the entire time. I mean, I would be remiss if I would think that, well, we're going to just have to leave it to history, and history won't judge Barr right. I want to see some justice here, man. They tried to bury this entire episode. Any chance we're going to open this back up and he can have some? I mean, will Bill Barr in any circumstance, in any way in your mind, Jim, ever do time for this?
Well, and it's impossible to believe that the present Justice Department, not only now being in this forum with Amy Berman Jackson, is not looking at all of this and thinking about all of these various alternatives. The big one, of course, as we've said, is just the public exposure of this. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the Attorney General appeals this decision or just lets the judge go ahead, as she said, and she's going to release this on May 17th, about 10 days from now.
Current Attorney General.
Right? And so that's one option there. Beyond that, yes, all of these things, including frankly the 6 or 8 instances of obstruction, those things are still in someone's inbox in the Department of Justice. Misrepresentations made about them. All of that can be the subject and should be the subject of additional Department of Justice review.
Jim, my understanding is that Bill Barr's DOJ slow-walked the investigation of Rudy Giuliani, because if there was enough underlying evidence to convince a judge that a search warrant should be issued, I suspect they already had that evidence. That's not newly acquired evidence, probably. But here's my question. Rudy Giuliani's, he's got real problems, and the latest news we're seeing involves Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman and monies that they paid, and monies that apparently Rudy enriched himself with at least $500,000. They threw a couple million in. He took $500,000 off the top for fees or services rendered, Jim. But isn't that exactly what he's been accused of in some way, shape, or form, effectively being a foreign lobbyist? And above and beyond that, could this fall under the header of money laundering, sir? Got like 1 minute left in this segment.
Right. The answer is yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. As we said before, when you try to make a list of all the things that Mr. Giuliani may be exposed to here, you've identified 2 or 3 of them: money laundering, the FARA problems, plainly attempting to undermine an election here, engagement with foreign authorities, all those kinds of things also in someone's inbox at the Department of Justice. Rudy Giuliani, as he also announced today, shedding his entourage, has money problems, trying to cut his costs, and he's got all these legal fees. He recognizes, too, that there are lots of things that he is exposed to. Don't be surprised, as we've talked before, about the Michael Cohen similarity here. If Rudy Giuliani at one point wakes up some morning and says, you know what, Donald Trump isn't going to help me, Michael Cohen may be the better way to pursue my future here.
Meaning flip on the boss. Come back with us. A fine former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, great friend of ours, more Devil's Advocates.
Well, history is written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Yosemites.
Because freedom.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
My Congresswoman, Rep. Gwen Moore, over 100 Republicans signing on to that Texas lawsuit. What are your thoughts on your fellow Republicans in the House?
You know, honestly, this is what we all sign up for. This is a democracy. You run races. I've been involved in races where people lose, and I'm ashamed of the fact that we had one congressman, I guess he's brand new, who voted for this nonsense.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
So James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney, joining us. Jim, thanks for sticking around for one more segment. I know we have a couple other topics we want to get to, but I want to just pick your brain a little bit on this Bill Barr, obstruction of justice of the president from Trump and all that. If the current Attorney General, Merrick Garland, is it up to him and only him whether or not to go now and pursue those obstruction of justice charges? If this memo comes out, is released, and we see the lies for what they were, and Bill Barr just pulled out of ass his reasoning for not charging. I'm not going to charge him because he's my guy. If Merrick Garland does not go down that road, are we just SOL and Trump gets away with it?
You know, I don't think so. Again, this is what is, again, speaking about inboxes, this is a big one. There are many in Merrick Garland's inbox right now. This is a significant one, made much more complicated just in the past 24 hours. So the answer to your first question is yes. He is the chief federal law enforcement officer on these big ticket issues, including things, frankly, like searching the apartment and the business office of the former president's attorney. Those things almost certainly crossed by him. This too, that sort of thing. I have no doubt that the attorneys right now appearing very soon in front of Amy Berman Jackson, they're conferring not only with the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, others inside the department about all these things, including the Attorney General himself. So he's got some judgment calls to make here about disclosures. My guess is he's going to want to be as transparent as possible about the release of as much of this memorandum as you possibly can, recognizing too that there's a strategic piece and there's a legal piece. And Amy Berman Jackson says, you know, a lot of this is just strategy. My guess is we will see that, to your delight, Mike. But he has got the ultimate decision based upon consultation with folks in the criminal division about whether there's something more than just public release, and if in fact there are crimes that have been committed here. Again, we don't know the dimensions, we haven't seen all the evidence, but that's up to him, supported obviously by the good counsel and the wonderful experience of an awful lot of civil servants who've done criminal prosecution, public corruption cases all of their careers.
Jim, you talked about Rudy Giuliani. And if there is some criminality that happened during the Trump administration, and we all have our suspicions, but Rudy was probably up to his pickled eyeballs in it, right? And he is now financially desperate, if we understand the reporting, and he faces his own legal jeopardy, and it's not cheap to defend oneself, and Trump won't pay his legal defense. I think strategically, this is a terrible mistake being made by Trump. If you don't want the former lawyer to roll up on you, maybe give him a few bucks, a few shekels towards his legal fees. Jim, would that be permitted under law for Trump to pay Rudy's legal fees? And wouldn't it be a good idea to do so?
Right, and those may be two different questions, obviously, that plainly, strategically for the former president, that may be wise. Remember also that right after this happened, right after Mr. Giuliani's apartment and business was searched by the FBI, the former president did release, it wasn't obviously on Facebook, but a statement saying how wonderful Mr. Giuliani is. He's a patriot. It's horrible that this is happening. So he's doing some of that. But again, to your point, the real force behind that would be to provide him some support to get him out from under this. Whether disclosures of attorney fee payments, those can be done obviously between attorneys, between their counsel, those kinds of things. They can also be the subjects under appropriate circumstances of judicial inquiry, depending upon what happens here. So all those things waiting to be played out. As I mentioned sort of cryptically before the break too, it strikes me that given all of these problems that Mr. Giuliani has, not just legal, but also financial, he's now got his part-time driver. I don't have a driver at all. I suspect you don't either, but he's got a part-time driver from Manhattan right now. All those kinds of things, at some point you sit down with your lawyer and say, what is your long-term goal here? If it is to remain out of jail, maybe it's time to do what Michael Cohen did, which is talk to the prosecutors, maybe strike a deal, not that you're going to get out from under jail completely, but you're going to enter into a plea agreement. And what are you going to do? You're going to agree to cooperate. Tell us what you know over the period of many years that you've served in this very important capacity with the former president.
Even with the cooperating witness that Rudy Giuliani might be, Donald Trump's going to take his mentor's cue. His mentor was Roy Cohn, and Roy Cohn basically said, fight it all. Always fight it, drag it, delay it, obstruct it, do whatever you can do. Jim, let's assume that the state has a credible witness like Giuliani, and Trump can presume his goose is cooked in some way, shape, or form. How much time legally can he drag this out before he would ever face criminal prosecution?
You know, it depending upon exactly when it was charged. We've talked about this in connection with the former president's other problems coming out of Cyrus Vance's office. Again, I made the prediction sometime this calendar year we'll see some of those charges. It's probably going to be, at the lowest end, months, if not years. Why? Because you get the charges that are issued, whether they're federal or state charges. You've got a period of discovery. You've got motion practice, motions to dismiss, to suppress that are litigated. Probably much of that even may go up on appeal. This would be years before it would happen, but not to say that if with an aggressive prosecutor, it cannot be aggressively prosecuted. And that's the important point.
Jim, just almost out of time here. I want to throw this one out there. Rudy Giuliani, could he both be an attorney for the president and represent a foreign interest? And if he is charged on the foreign interest thing, does that nullify any sort of claim of representation for Trump?
It's an excellent question. It goes to conflicts of interest. And again, you have to figure out what your interests are. The basic rule is you cannot represent two clients whose interests are conflicting or that somehow put you in the position of having to disclose information to one, not to the other. It's a conflict issue. And it can also, depending upon what you do, again, we've talked about this crime fraud exception. You can't have an attorney-client relationship that is protected by attorney-client privilege if you're engaging in criminal conduct and criminal discussions. That's the other issue that's going to loom large. That's why right now this taint team, this review team, is reviewing everything that was gotten last week from the search of the Giuliani properties.
Jim, theoretically, could Trump run for president while under indictment?
The answer is yes. There's no prohibition on that. Interesting prospect about having, again, a candidate, as we know in other circumstances, who've run while they've had their own criminal exposure out there.
And theoretically, if he won re-election, if that's what it was called, he could pardon himself.
Gosh, again, all these questions we're scratching our head at. Whoever thought we'd have to be having these kinds of discussions? James Madison and people like George Mason and others would be turning over and probably are turning over in their graves thinking about these things.
James Santelle, the finest of guests. Thank you so much, Jim. Stick around. John Nichols from The Nation is next. More Devil's Advocates.
Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
Will there be a lawsuit? Yeah, probably.
There's a good chance I may have committed some light.
A progressive voice in rural Wisconsin, WTTN 1580 AM is South Central Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio. Madison businesses, stop flushing money away. If you've got old water wasting toilets in your business, Madison Water Utility will give you $100 bill credits to replace them. Madison businesses can get up to 20 bill credits per year. Save water and money by upgrading to an EPA WaterSense toilet. Madison's Water Utility Toilet Rebate Program bill credits are first come, first served until funding runs out. Find out more at madisonwater.org. Madison Water Utility customers only.
Are you ready for a political party in the heart of Red, Wisconsin? Join the Devil's Advocates live on the deck at Johnny's Lounge, 519 Madison Street, Beaver Dam, Thursday, May 27th. Watch the Devil's Advocates live broadcast 2 to 5 Central. Enjoy the lakeside views from Johnny's outdoor deck. Support a neighbor's local small business, and then unplug for the party in a long holiday weekend. Thursday, May 27th. Devil's Advocates, Johnny's Lounge, Beaver Dam. Be there.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Another record close for the Dow, up 316 points. A new attempt to estimate the true death toll from the coronavirus puts the number at more than double the official tallies. Here's the AP's Sagar Magani.
University of Washington researchers estimate the actual number of deaths globally is 6.9 million people. They also suggest the U.S. death count is more than 905,000, while the official tally is about 575,000. The estimates are the latest bid to get a handle on something that's hard to count. Experts say the official COVID-19 death statistics are undercounted for several reasons, like governments perhaps missing deaths that did not happen in hospitals or cases where a patient did not have a COVID test. Sagar Magani, Washington.
A new study in Census Bureau data shows people moved out of the nation's largest metropolitan areas and into smaller ones during the pandemic. I'm Ed Donahue.
I need these boxes in bin 7. Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to call in and find out when next...
Whitney's warehouse foreman just retired, and the replacement needs to move to fulfillment.
Hold on. Guys, can we get the dock cleared now?
Indeed can help her hire the people she needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Thursday, May 6th. On Wednesday, a Dane County task force focused on addressing the increase in suicides and overdoses the county has seen over the past few years convened for the first time virtually. Preliminary data from the Dane County Medical Examiner portrays an increase in both overdoses and suicides during 2020 in Dane County, with a peak in overdoses in May of 2020 near the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The committee will meet 3 more times this summer and again at the end of the year. The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection implemented a new emergency rule earlier this week, allowing farmers to repurpose their hemp crops for different markets if the crop's THC levels are too high. Previous restrictions force farmers to destroy crops beyond acceptable THC levels. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Some say we're kind of a big effing deal. That's mostly us. I want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, friend of ours. And Dom, we got another fine friend joining us very momentarily, John Nichols from The Nation magazine. And is John ready for us?
I'm totally ready.
All right, John. Welcome
nice.
to the
Hey,
political party, pal.
Listening to you talking about you being a big deal and all that, you know, it's a little braggy. I thought I was on Trump's new radio show. You know?
Well, you know, we are rolling out our own social media page.
A blog? Are you going to do a blog?
We got an app now, John. Does that count for something?
No, it's like Trump's radio show. I think of myself as kind of a big deal. I was president.
Well, John Nichols, you are a big deal, man. We appreciate you coming around. And we were just acknowledging the fact earlier in the big show that, you know, the crazy contrast of these Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Liz Cheney, And somehow, compared to the QAnon queen, Liz Cheney seems downright sympathetic, wrote an op-ed published at the Washington Post, kind of standing up to the Trump part of the party. But John, you tell us at The Nation today, be careful. Liz Cheney ain't nobody's friend. Is she, John?
No, she is not your friend, man. And let me tell you, anybody who, and I think most people are going to be realistic about this. They understand, that she's in a fight with Trump right now, and there's nothing wrong with cheering her on in a fight with Trump, right? That's fine. That's like watching two sports teams that you don't like playing.
The enemy of my enemy, John, something like that.
I'm a little careful about that because I think that's where it gets you in trouble. Because see, it's the last part of that line. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Liz Cheney is not your friend. She will never be your friend. But the idea, it's more like if I'm watching the Bears play Minneapolis, right? If I'm watching Chicago play Minneapolis, maybe on a certain day, for some reason, I'm into Chicago, right? Whatever. And so I can sort of cheer for them, but I don't really care, right? Because I don't, I'm a Wisconsinite. I'm not cheering for Chicago or for Minneapolis.
Well, maybe, John, it depends what the line is, and maybe you're hoping for an injury on either team.
That's right. There you go. And the injury is an interesting way of looking at it. You're a much more twisted person than I am. But
modestly more twisted, John.
Modestly, indeed. But here's my bottom line on this stuff. If Liz Cheney had any chance at all to weaken Donald Trump or to, speak to the heart of Kevin McCarthy and, really influence things in any kind of way, yeah, I might, say, okay, this is good. This is good. She doesn't have a chance in hell. Nothing she's doing is going to make Donald Trump a better person or is going to make Kevin McCarthy a better person or any of these other, or any member of the Wisconsin congressional delegation, right? She's not going to make them better people. It's not going to happen. So what is she doing? She's playing the long game, just like her dad did. And she is a political careerist who knows that she cast that vote for impeachment and she lost. She didn't lose on the vote for impeachment. She lost in the fight for the soul of the party. It's over. And so now she's kind of standing on some high moral ground. And you're like, okay, maybe I should like Liz Cheney because, she's a noble loser, right? She's an honorable failure. But wrong. Don't fall into that trap.
Why not?
Because last year, like I tell you, literally, last year she was referring to the Democratic Party as the party of infanticide. She literally, she is one of the meanest, most awful people in American politics. Her attacks on Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, the two Muslim women in Congress, were so vicious that Jim Zogby, who's head of the American Arab Institute, a really honorable man, said, that either she is driven by some sort of fierce Islamophobia or it's ignorance, but probably both. And the bottom line is, if you go through her record, right? Here's an interesting way to analyze Liz Cheney, to put her in perspective. I'm going to give you a list of names, and then I'll ask you a question. Kevin McCarthy, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Liz Cheney. Which of those five voted most frequently for Donald Trump's agenda?
Well, you set it up. The obvious is Liz Cheney, I suspect.
Yes, 92%. She's more of a Trump backer than the others and was all the way through. Now, obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene's brand new, so she had like one vote to vote on or whatever along the way. But she is more of a Trump backer by a big mile than Matt Gaetz or Jim Jordan, people who you think of as sort of the drooling Trump backers, right? And so you need to understand, people need to understand, she's got a conflict with Donald Trump right now. She's in a fight with Donald Trump And she's on the right side of that fight. Donald Trump is a horrible player, doesn't have any respect for American democracy. But Liz Cheney voted with him 92% of the time. Liz Cheney campaigned for him in 2016 and 2020. Liz Cheney said vicious, incredibly crude things in his defense and to advance his candidacy in November of 2020. So the bottom line is, if you're looking for an honorable player, right, somebody who, really is on the right side of history, her record does not point to that. And since we've had the transition to the Biden presidency, she voted against the American Rescue Act. She voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. She voted against the For the People Act. You run down the list of pieces of legislation that have, should have bipartisan support, and she's against them. She is already attacking the infrastructure plan, attacking the American Families Plan, and she's saying Biden's wrong for bringing the troops home from Afghanistan. She's attacking Biden for trying to do an Iran deal to dial down nukes in Iran. And she's attacking John Kerry, claiming that John Kerry is the Chamber of Commerce for the mullahs of Iran. I'm sorry, I can't distinguish Liz Cheney's rhetoric most days from that of Donald Trump.
Well, she is Dick Cheney's daughter, let's not forget. And she's not going to win Miss Congeniality, I suspect. But perhaps she's placing a bet, if you will, John Nichols, on the fact that Donald Trump's going to prison, or at least he's going to be politically damaged. You talk about the long game. Her old man's got some good connections at intelligence, I suspect. And they know that Donald Trump's up to his, orange eyebrows in this. So the question is, can she wait him out? Because Trump's probably going to prison, or at least he will be a disgraced former president soon. Her father should go, face war crimes at The Hague, but that's a different story for a different day, John. What about betting against Trump?
Well, betting against Trump is a mistake that every single Republican politician has made at least once. Okay? Scott Walker bet against Trump. How did that turn out? Right? Scott Walker.
Yeah, but he's a moron, John.
Well, so did Ted Cruz, right? So
also a moron, but please continue, sir.
No, 17 people ran against Trump, right?
Yeah.
They were the best and the brightest of the Republican Party, which I know is an oxymoron, but they were the best and the brightest of the Republican Party. He beat them all. Paul Ryan tried to stand up to him. Paul Ryan, what does Paul Ryan do? He's like a parking lot attendant in Janesville now or something. And I guess he's on the Fox board. So, you know what I mean? It's betting against Trump there's not a lot of track record that works, with all due respect. But I do think that Liz Cheney has a long game that she's playing. And her long game is that she's going to run for re-election in Wyoming. And she's going to try and win. If she wins, she will say, well, she's the first person that beat Trump in the Republican Party, right? And that's going to, that'll give her her claim. She will try to position herself as the John McCain, if you will, of the mid 21st century. Here's the only problem with that. John McCain actually had at least one, drop of decency in him. I am hard pressed to find that drop within Liz Cheney. The fact of the matter is, if you look at the kinds of things that she has said about Ilhan Omar, about Rashida Tlaib, about Kamala Harris, about Joe Biden, about John Kerry, about her, you just run down the list, right? She's really a vile person.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. John Nichols, national affairs correspondent with The Nation magazine, joining us for about another 4 minutes or so. John, I want to get your sense. Who would replace Cheney? Now, my understanding, Trump was, very complimentary of Rep. Elise Stefanik from New York. My understanding as well that Steve Scalise has also endorsed her. Does the Republican Party, if this goes down and looks like Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney are losing, the battle for the soul of the GOP?
Oh, yeah, they're losing. Yeah.
So what happens then? She's replaced by Stefanik, and even if Mitt remains in and even if Liz wins her reelection, what happens to the Republican Party? That's not a unified political force at that point. How do you think that impacts, the country going forward and working with the Dems?
With all due respect, it's a unified political force with like two outliers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we have to understand the Republican Party is Trump's party right now, whether you like it or not. The Republican Party is so much Trump's party that Trump didn't even start this thing to get rid of Liz Cheney, right? It's like Kevin McCarthy and his caucus, they started this, and then Trump goes, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, take her down, right? But the bottom line is the Republican Party is so lost to Trumpism at this point that they try to anticipate Trump to do things that will please him. This is like the King's Court in 1775 and, King George III. And Trump is every bit as, erratic as King George III. And so you've got, these courtesans now, these partisans who want to please their king. And that's what they're going to be for a while. And the danger is not on the Republican side. The danger is on the Democratic side, that they don't always recognize what they're up against and why it is so absolutely vital to not play the games of thinking. Don't play the game of thinking you're going to be working with the Republicans. If you fall for that fantasy that you're going to be working with the Republicans, I promise you, you will be working at, dismantling your own agenda, because that's what happens when you work with them. Mitch McConnell has said his goal is to wreck this administration. Mitch McConnell is the mainstream. He's the reasonable man in the Republican Party. And so there's not I'm sorry. I wish I could give you a romantic, happy story. There's not a middle ground in this fight. And that's what I'm trying to say about Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney's not some sort of fabulous person. She's anti-choice. She's been horrible on, war and peace, on protecting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You run down the list. She's awful on all of these issues. And the fact that she's got a fight going with Trump, great. I cheer her on in that fight, right? But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, she is part of a political party that is where Trump's at or worse. And so the end result is you have to go into politics recognizing what you're up against. And Democrats shouldn't be talking about or looking for ways to work with folks who want to start wars and screw over the vast majority of American people.
John Nichols, our good friend, thank you so much for coming around. I can't wait for trial by combat. Liz Cheney against Donald J. Trump. May the best man win. It'll probably be Cheney. Thanks, John.
Oh, she's a deep Trump. I bet. That I will say.
Yes, we will be holding them accountable.
Does this mean we're not friends anymore?
Whoever says that is a stupid idiot.
If I thought you weren't my friend, I just don't think I could bear it.
I was never a fan of John McCain, and
She was 27 years old. She took the gun that my grandfather had given her for self-defense. She never got to see her son grow up to be anything. Because she had easy access to a gun, I've been robbed of that relationship.
63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. With safe gun storage, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever. Right? Well, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say you'd be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist then, Gary, by that
No,
logic?
I'm not saying he is, but
But
saying
he
he's got
said
a-
he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your
God?
biblical
From
logic,
God?
Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Well, turn it up, man.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open for you at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, another fine guest in this hour. Thank you, John Nichols from The Nation magazine. Before we had former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. You know, what a fine middle of the show, Dom. It's like we chocked it full of meat, like a sandwich, a good sandwich.
Devil's Advocate sandwich, yeah.
Devil triangle, something like that.
Nice.
844-967-2789. You can react.
It's what's for dinner.
Corned beef, roast beef. I'm going to have some beef later, probably. Thank you, John Nichols. And Dom, I've got a reaction from Donald J. Trump, at least the Save America PAC. This one sort of covers all the topics pretty much that we've discussed today so far. Statement from Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. The fake news media, working in close conjunction with big tech and radical left Democrats, is doing everything they can to perpetrate the term the big lie when speaking of the 2020 presidential election fraud. They are right in that the 2020 election was a big lie, but not in the way they mean the 2020 election, which didn't even have legislative approvals from many states, which is required under the U.S. Constitution. Yeah, now he's a constitutional scholar. And also, otherwise corrupt was indeed the big lie. So we've seen this before, Dom.
He's still trying to rebrand what the big lie actually is.
The big lie was the fact that, who was it? The fake news media, big tech, and the radical left Democrats rigged the election and stole it from the man. That is the big lie, according to Trump, right?
Stop whining.
So a little bit more here from his statement, tying the rest of the interviews from earlier today in nicely. Although I don't see Liz Cheney noted. The big lie, which they do in unison and coordination, think of it instead as the greatest fraud in history of our country! Exclamation point. An even greater hoax than Russia, 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 Mueller, 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 impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, or any of the other many scams the Democrats pulled.
What about the Republicans that voted for your impeachment, Trump?
That was the only bipartisan effort this year. Because none of the Republicans voted for the American Rescue Plan, right?
Right.
The only bipartisanship we've seen all year were the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys voting to impeach Donald Trump. And there were, 16 of them? Something like that between the House and the Senate? You couldn't get 16 Republicans to vote for free money for Republicans and not for Democrats right now.
844-967-2789. He seems a little desperate. That's what he seems like. I mean, he's more desperate than normal.
Well, he got Zuck blocked back off of Facebook, so he doesn't have his social media outlet. His rollout of the 1995 style WordPress blog impressed absolutely no one. You can't even comment on the page, right? He rolled out a blog. So that's embarrassing. His buddy Rudy's looking for legal defense dollars. He's not going to pay because he's a cheap bastard, right? Doesn't even pay his own lawyers. He's certainly not going to pay Rudy's lawyers. But that's a short-sighted decision, I would say, Dom, because, of course, Rudy's probably calling federal prosecutors right now, rolling up on the man. But he's got the threat of running for election in 2024.
Yeah, good luck with that. 844
That's all he's got going for him at this point.
2789.
That is his only leverage.
Dick from Edison, you are up. Welcome, sir. What do you got for us today?
Something that's been irritating me since this morning when I first saw it, the clip of Mitch McConnell talking. He was asked the question, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, about Liz Cheney, and he went into his little offshoot about 100% focused on stopping Biden's socialist agenda. So I guess my question is, and I had it from Matt this morning, I cleaned it up a little bit. Why doesn't anybody in the press corps ever challenge this guy, a la Tim Russert in the day, and go, excuse me, sir, with all due respect, that's not what I asked you. I asked you about Lynn Cheney, and maybe throw a little Adlai Stevenson in and go, I'm prepared to wait until hell freezes over for an answer. Otherwise, we're going to shut the microphones off and you can talk to no one. He doesn't deserve any press time if he's not going to answer questions.
Yeah, but there's always Fox News, Dick. That's where it breaks down. These other networks.
And Newsmax and OAN.
They feel like they need access to the legislative leaders or the president. So you can only push so hard, man. No politician ever rarely answers the question asked of them.
I'll tell you what, though. They're preaching to the choir on all of those other areas. You might, get some. I guess I've just lost. I mean, you look at MSNBC. In the last 2 or 3 people that have replaced Russert on Meet the Press, they're all lame.
Dick Gregory and Chuck Todd, you are no Tim Russert.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Dick. It can get frustrating, and as one who's asked a few politicians a few questions, you can only ask the same question so many times, and if they're not going to answer it, you can stop asking, or you can call them out and maybe not get invited to the next presser. You never know what's going to happen. But I'm with you, man. I mean, if you're going to be in politics, you want to, represent the people. You should be able to answer a very straightforward question. But you're going to ask, and they're going to give you the answer they want to give.
Dom, I have not watched any of the Sunday morning shows since the last time I was invited on a Sunday morning show. And I can tell you, man, I think the problem why we're not invited back more specifically me, I think I answer too many of the questions a little too truthfully. That 100% I give them, Dom, it's like 90% too much.
Your greatest fault, you care too much. Wisco Paul, you are up. Welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Hey, good afternoon, Devils. Mitch did answer one question. He said he was 100% against anything Biden wants to do, which means bipartisanship is done. And the sooner the Democrats would recognize it, the better off we're going to be, because there's no guarantee you're going to hold Congress.
Well, you better tell Manchin and Sinema that, Paul.
Well, you're going to have to give them whatever they want to get things passed. Otherwise, you're screwed, man. Because, it's not happening. If you're going to rely on any Republicans, it's not happening. Just like this state. What's the last thing the Republican Party did in this state that was any good? That's the simple question. Thanks for taking my call.
Paul, they went to committee today, Joint Finance Committee in the state of Wisconsin, and they removed $3.4 billion in funding, dug a big hole, and voted down legalizing marijuana.
So there you go.
Can't say they don't do anything.
Is to do nothing good.
Digging big holes
Or is it nothing well?
They don't do anything good or well. Unlike the Devil's Advocates, if you're listening on AM 950, stick around. Matt McNeil, the rest of you on the Devil Radio app and worldwide, stick around. The happier hour starts right now.
If I had to beat off impeachment,
I'm going to come at you like a spider monkey.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting all our patrons to join us for an exclusive live broadcast at one of Hawk's finer neighborhood bars, the Jade Monkey Cocktail Lounge, located at 217 Cottage Grove Road in Madison on Tuesday, June 15th. Seating is limited, so please go to patreon.com, search for the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever, and sign up to be a patron. Join us June 15th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Jade Monkey in Madison for a live broadcast, then stick around for the political party open to the public 5 to 7 p.m. See you then. You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. President Biden stood near a 70-year-old bridge in Lake Charles, Louisiana, to pitch his $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan.
When the road or the bridge is washed out, or when it can't stand up to a hurricane, people can't get to their jobs, they can't get to their schools, families can't get to hospitals safely. This is about creating jobs and also saving lives.
The president wants to raise corporate taxes and take back the 2017 Trump tax cut.
All those folks are still going to have 2 homes or 3 homes in their jets. It won't matter. Not going to change their standard in one little bit.
Several Republican senators favor spending $568 billion on infrastructure over 5 years. On Fox News Channel's Fox and Friends, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a sweeping elections bill into law.
I have what we think is the strongest election integrity measures in the country. I'm actually going to sign it right here. It's going to take effect. So there you go. Bill is signed.
It would place guardrails against voter fraud, even as they acknowledged there's no serious signs of voting irregularities last November. Deputy White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said there's no legitimate reason to change voting laws.
There are some states with bad laws that are trying to make them good, and some states with good laws trying to make them even better. That's moving forward. Florida is moving in the wrong direction.
The Biden administration is asserting the fate of indirect nuclear talks with Iran is now solely up to Tehran. A 4th round of talks is about to begin. The number of new confirmed coronavirus cases reached 400,000 for the second time in India. Under order of the Supreme Court, India's government has agreed to provide more medical oxygen to hospitals in the capital city, New Delhi. The Federal Reserve is warning the financial system remains vulnerable to pandemic-related threats. Another record close for the Dow, up 318 points. This is AP News.
I need these boxes in bin 7. Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to call in and find out when next...
Whitney's warehouse foreman just retired, and the replacement needs to move to fulfillment.
Hold on. Guys, can we get the dock cleared now?
Indeed can help her hire the people she needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Knucklehead CBD and Vapes are one-stop shop for everything you need. Knucklehead strives to be the safest place in Madison. Forgot a mask? No problem. We got one for you. Stuck at home or in a hurry? Call us at 608-284-0151 and schedule a pickup or delivery. Check out our ever-growing online store at knuckleheadcbd.com and get something shipped right to your door. We love sales at Knucklehead, so make sure to check out our social media for all of our daily deals. Shop is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, 550 State Street. I'm Lando Commando, and I'll see you there.
At Chad's Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chad's Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
Hi, this is Cody with Go Landscaping. We do full yard installs, retaining walls, and certified dry stone masonry. Let us turn your dream for an outdoor living space into a reality. Go Landscaping is still taking on new commercial and residential lawn care for this summer or let us bid your snow removal for fall. Find us at golandscapings.com. Again, that's golandscapings.com.
Make some room on your home screen for the greatest radio app ever. Check out the Devil Radio app in the Apple and Google Play stores today and stream the greatest radio station ever wherever you go. The Devil Radio app, streaming 24/7 right from your smartphone.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Thursday, May 6th. With demand for COVID-19 vaccines beginning to taper compared to the state's supply, the Wisconsin Department of Health Services has noted that clinics around the state are beginning to have more and more wasted doses of COVID-19 vaccine. DHS reports the state has had 4,500 wasted doses to date, but a majority of those have occurred in the last few weeks since vaccination demand has slowed. The state hopes the pending approval of the Pfizer vaccine for children ages 12 and up will increase demand for clinics around the state and thus help curb the amount of wasted vaccine doses. Forecast of light rain this morning, turning to partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a high of 58 degrees. Partly cloudy skies to continue overnight with a gradual clearing throughout the evening and a slight chance for rain, low of 41 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Now that we are sliding into the Friday Eve 4 o'clock happy hour. Woohoo! Kind of forgot that Thursday is nearly a weekend. Almost.
I can nurse a hangover through a Friday. It's basically the weekend.
You day drinking again, Salvia?
Come on, it's the day after Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, so a little hair of the dog, little tequila to get over your tequila hangover, Dom? At least you're consistent, fella.
Well, if you never stop drinking Critty, you never get a hangover.
Dominic, wanted to start this big hour, and we do have a late addition to the rolls. Joint Finance Committee Democrat, my Senator, John Erpenbach. Dom, you booked him at 4:30. Glad John's coming back round. We'll get an update from the machinations on Tony Evers' budget.
Yes.
But want to start in a different place. The Raw story, where we found this, it originally published at the Alternet, its commentary, the real reason right-wingers hate vaccines. And I found it because Rojo's featured on it. Go get vaccinated, America. The president urged the nation last Wednesday in the State of the Union address, technically a joint address to Congress, right, Dom? Joe Biden had a lot of good news to report to the U.S. Congress on the COVID vaccination effort. 220 million shots had been administered in his first 100 days in office. Everyone over 16 is eligible, and 90% of Americans now live within 5 miles of a vaccination site. Vaccine manufacturing is booming. Supply will soon no longer be a limiting factor. Yet even as eligibility has expanded, demand has plateaued across the country, and vaccination rates have dipped from their peak. Time is of the essence. More transmissible variants of the virus mean a higher percentage of the population must be immunized to reach herd immunity. We're in a race between the finest that human civilization has to offer and a venal, dumbassery.
dumbassery.
In one quarter of science bolstered by billions in public investment. 18 months ago, there were no vaccines for human coronavirus. Today, there are multiple safe, highly effective COVID shots. Better yet, thanks to wise public policy and an all-hands-on-deck rollout, they're available for free to any American adult. The president even announced tax credits to reimburse small and mid-sized businesses that give their employees paid time off to get vaccinated and to recover from the vaccine side effects. I should have taken the day off, Dom. I just got my second Fauci ouchie, as it's sometimes called, yesterday.
How you been feeling?
A little achy, but otherwise strong and clever, as
Strong
I usually
like
do. A little bit more here, Dom, then maybe you can take over. In the opposite quarter are the demagogues, clout chasers, and magical thinkers. These operators think they can gain political power, attention, and in some cases, money by undermining vaccinations against a disease that has killed more than 588,000 people. In a new study out today, Dom, scientists believe closer to 900,000 Americans have died of this disease, but 7 million worldwide, if we actually get the numbers right. A little bit more. Power-hungry Republicans like United States Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin
Here we go.
are positioning themselves as heir to Donald Trump by opposing vaccinations. Johnson recently told a righty-whitey radio host, Icky Vicky, that distribution should have been limited to the truly vulnerable, and he questioned the need for broad-based vaccination. Johnson also attacked the civic-minded values behind the push for herd immunity. What is it to you? You have to get a vaccine, and science is telling you that it's very, very effective, Johnson asked. So why is it this big push to make sure everyone gets a vaccine? The answer, obviously, herd immunity, which offers protections for those who can't get vaccinated or those whose immune systems can't respond to the vaccine.
Rudy, it's a shrewd bet. 42% of Republicans say they probably or definitely won't get a shot, even if it's shown to be safe. Even if it's shown to be safe, provision speaks volumes. Some Republicans claim to be against vaccination as a matter of personal liberty, but nobody's forcing them to get vaccinated. It's all rationalization. Vaccine refusal is a tribal touchstone, even as vaccine hesitancy ebbs generally. Indeed, last summer's heavily armed anti-lockdown sieges of state legislatures were the dress rehearsals for the January 6th insurgency. Rejecting vaccines is about values, not facts. These right-wingers reject vaccines because vaccines represent science, the welfare state, and the common good, which are antithetical to everything they hold dear. Johnson isn't the only Republican riding anti-vaccine paranoia. Perhaps the perfect example of how vaccine denialism furthers extreme right-wing political ambition is Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, who freely mixes anti-government and anti-vaccine sentiment. Mastriano beat the rush and came out against the COVID vaccine before it existed. He is also a central player in the bid to steal the election for Trump. He actually had to be pulled out of a meeting with then President Trump because he was found to be suffering from COVID. But he recovered enough to organize bus transportation for the January 6th insurrection. Mastriano's antics have transformed him from an obscure legislator to a gubernatorial hopeful. State legislators in 40 states have introduced bills that would undermine vaccine mandates. These bills are to legislating what vaccine denialism is to science. Few will become law, but they are potent messaging designed to further politicize vaccination. Some entertainers are also milking COVID denialism for ratings and notoriety. Podcaster Joe Rogan, a UFC commentator better known for his takes on elk meat and DMT, and his willingness to host conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones, opined that if you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I'll go no. Rogan has 11 million listeners, many of them young. Predictably, Fox host Tucker Carlson defended Rogan's attempt to poison public understanding of vaccinations. Even Sean Hannity, who claims he's not anti-vax, flirted with vaccine denialism Tuesday, falsely suggesting there might not be any science behind the vaccine. What? In a desperate bid to become Twitter's main character, D-list Republican pundit gave the game away. My primary reason for refusing the vaccine is much simpler. I dislike the people who want me to take it, and it makes them mad when they hear about my refusal. That in turn makes me happy. He's a troll, but he speaks the truth. We're not just dealing with garden variety vaccine hesitancy anymore. We're up against a cynical campaign to turn vaccination into a referendum on science, the welfare state, and social solidarity. If that's how they want to play it, fine. Vaccines are the greatest triumph of medicine. Public health is a crowning achievement of the welfare state. What we have done together to battle COVID is a testament to our love for ourselves, our neighbors, and our country. Those are our values. The Republicans have called the question, which side are you on? Found this one at The Raw Story, Lindsay Beyerstein from Alternate.
Dominic, I can answer that question, at least in regards to Senator Ron Johnson. Well, he's on Russia's side, of course.
Nice.
844-967-2789. We're always on the side of our callers, like Bill from Deerfield. Almost called you beer from wherever you're from, Bill. Welcome.
All right. I would answer to that. No problem. Anyway.
No problem that the Rojos of the world are discouraging people from getting vaccinated, because it's going to wreck it for all of us, Bill. That's my qualm.
Right. Well, I go back and, look what they did to Galileo. This is historically part of what humans do. They just, no, damn it, the sun goes around the earth. Sorry, dude, it didn't. But they still basically locked him up in his own room for life. Anti-science is always going to be with us, and we just have to chip away at the edges of that intransigent block.
Well, careful about chipping away at the edges. You could fall off the edge of the earth, Bill. 844-967-2789. That's why Rojo lives in the Midwest.
Well, let's be clear. It was the Pope that locked up Galileo. I mean, that was the religious part of it. And I think there's a lot of religious concern for, at least that's their justification for those that are the anti-vaxxers. They look at it as a religious standpoint. Like, hell, it's the mark of the beast, right?
Maybe. But I don't even think it's reluctance per se. Because as the polling question asked, even if it's totally safe, will you get it? No. They talk about wearing a mask as virtue signaling. Well, you know what? So is resentment of vaccinations. They're signaling their jackassery, their dumbassery. That's the virtue they signal to us. But mostly that statement about, I don't want to take it because I know how much it bothers you. That's what they're in it for. They're in it for the troll. They'd rather burn it down than live on if it makes you, I'll burn my house down because you're not going to like the smoke coming in your eyes. 844-967-2789. We'll come back to the phones. The next big segment before our fine guest, Senator John Erpenbach, will contain all of your, or at least most of your, fine opinions right up till we click on you. Come back with us. More Devils. More of you. More of us. 844-96-PARTY.
And if you want to see how I see it, life hangs on a thread. COVID. By the way, on November 4th, you won't hear about it anymore.
Simply follow the science.
Yes, science!
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Are you ready for a political party in the heart of Red, Wisconsin? Join the Devil's Advocates live on the deck at Johnny's Lounge, 519 Madison Street, Beaver Dam, Thursday, May 27th. Watch the Devil's Advocates live broadcast 2 to 5 Central. Enjoy the lakeside views from Johnny's Outdoor Deck. Support a neighbor's local small business, and then unplug for the party in a long holiday weekend. Thursday, May 27th. Devil's Advocates, Johnny's Lounge, Beaver Dam. Be there.
My name is Rocker, and this is my vodka. Rocker Vodka is distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Find Rocker Vodka at Woodman's, Festival Foods, Trixie's Liquor, Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Willie Street Co-op, Total Wine, Vic Pierce, Miller's Market, Cambridge Cooler. Find more at rockervodka.com. It's yummy. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Hi, this is Gordy from Kopke's Greenhouse near Oregon. Mother's Day is just around the corner and our greenhouses are bursting with color. We grow over 13,000 hanging baskets and over 1,000 patio containers. Whether it be for your mother or the mother of your children, we've got you covered. We are open till 7:30 weekdays and Saturdays till 6. You can also order gift cards on the web at kopkesgreenhouse.com. That's KOPKES greenhouse.com.
Stream Progressive News and Talk 24/7, as well as download exclusive podcasts and interviews at devilradio927.com. That's devilradio927.com. Like, wow, Scoob, it's Devil Radio. Rebel Radio.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open, 844-967-2789.
Dom, we got a fine guest joining us very soon, John Erpenbach, my senator from the great state of Wisconsin. And a couple of headlines and then onto the phones. I see one headline. Michigan House bill would impose a $1,000 fine as punishment for a COVID-19 vaccine card. How dare you prove that you've been inoculated? I'll fine you for that. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
They would fine somebody for asking for the card or for you to present the card?
Well, I'll have to dig beyond the headline to give you that answer, Dom. You want it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, briefly. David Edwards reporting a bill sponsored by Michigan Republicans. Oh, that's hard to figure. Will impose a $1,000 fine for each vaccine card issued by any governmental agency. No, you're going to fine the government for issuing the vaccine cards. Just give the vaccines, if you must, willy-nilly. A little bit more here. The bill states, except as otherwise authorized or required by law of the United States or this state, a governmental entity shall not do any of the following: A, produce or issue or enter into a contract with a person to produce or issue a COVID-19 vaccination passport. B, provide an incentive to a person if the person requires or uses a COVID-19 vaccination passport. So I can't even incentivize that behavior at my workplace. If I want my guys to get vaccinated, I can't even say, hey, financial bonus for anyone that shows up for work and shows that they've been properly vaccinated, according to a newly proposed piece of legislation in Michigan. That's asinine.
So get the vaccine. It'll save your life. No, I'll give you $5. Okay.
No, you offer me incentive, I'll fine you $1,000.
Makes sense.
A little counterintuitive, oxymoronic. 844-967-2789. John from Columbia County. Welcome, John. What do you got for us?
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. I have been listening to your promotion for Jake's across the street. Jake's Monkey, I guess. Anyways, I want to put a shout out to Wayne's Automotive right across the street. One of the only gas stations in the city of Madison that has zero ethanol in all their gas. So right across the street, when you guys are going to be there next week, get zero ethanol.
John, I appreciate that plug for a fine local business. I'm sure they've got the right attitude, ethanol free. But, if they want to get plugged on the finest radio show ever, they got to pay the plug price, to the station. We do ads for that, John.
Come across the street, hang out with the Jade Monkey with us when we were there on the 15th, man.
Party.
June
Next
15th.
up, Steve from Delafield. Welcome, Steve. What do you got for us?
Hello, Steve.
Good afternoon, Don, Crute, Brian. Thanks for taking my call. I guess, did you hear that yesterday that Don Trump Jr. and Wayne LaPierre were sending flowers and boxes of candy to Joe Biden? What happened was yesterday that I was, looking at the internet, and they had a news story come up that from the Safari Club. The Safari Club is a big game hunting club. Where they provide hunting guides, lodging, transport licenses to people who want to shoot elephants, elk, mule deer, long-haired sheep. So, anyways, they had a news story on there that Biden is going to open up 2.1 million acres of wildlife sanctuaries for big game hunters like Trump and LaPierre. So, it's kind of like, usually, it's kind of hard for these guys to get something like that passed. And it's just kind of surprising that, that Biden opens it up this soon into his presidency.
Steve, can you share some of that source material with us? Because we had not, I'm looking at Dom, but I had not seen that story
either. No.
Yeah, it's if you look at the
text it to us, Steve. We got to keep moving down the phones. We're running short on time. We got to find guests coming soon. Don't forget Friday grievances. If you share it, Steve, we'll air it right here on Devil Radio. Tom from Madison, you're next on the phones. Tom, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey,
Tom.
Hey, guys. Hey, I hope to see you down and a lot of the listeners down at the Capitol tomorrow. The nurses and a whole bunch of frontline workers are going to be getting together at SEIU. And I do believe Governor Evers is going to be there too. So 11 to 12:30 at the Capitol tomorrow.
You mean he's going to be at the protest or up in the East Wing at his office? I mean, I would hope most days that Evers is at the Capitol.
It is said that he is coming down to give support to this year's Madison's RNs and Nurses Week. And hopefully there'll be other legislators as well.
Tom, what time's the big event start tomorrow?
It's 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. is the flyer I've got from SEIU. And my sweetheart's an ER nurse, and she's one of the people trying to put this thing together and fighting for all the rights of collective bargaining and having a say in your workplace that Act 10 took away just a few years back.
Tom, really appreciate you calling and letting us know, and best to your missus or your girl, as you mentioned. I'll try to get up there to the Capitol tomorrow, like my buddy Pizza Box Mike did today. Michael, you're back at the Capitol. They've unlocked the building, and there's more governmental malfeasance going on, and a big protest from Voces de la Frontera. They shut down the Joint Finance Committee. Michael, give us what's happening on the scene.
Well, no wonder I didn't get arrested, huh? They were too busy with those guys. And yeah, they went in and disrupted it, and they were kicked out basically. But it was pretty cool because they were using the amplified devices to speak down in the rotunda, and the cops weren't, bringing out any LRADs, and nobody was getting arrested. And of course, I had my Justice for Jacob shirt that I was showing the cops, and I was like, "How do you like that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then I showed them the bullet holes on the back. So I'm there to stir it up a little bit, but those guys, they took it the way it was intended. They know what I meant by that, and it just felt good to be back there, man. I saw, man, I'll tell you, Andre Jacques looks like a friar, dude. Has got one. Looks like he's got a hat on, but it's actually a serious bald spot.
Cabinet injury, fella. Cabinet injury.
Right. Well, and I did see Senator Baldwin, too, walking down the street. I was like,
nice.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, and then I pointed out that there was a bunch of people praying, like they do, mixing state and church there at the Capitol, right? And Jacques was with that crowd, and none of them wearing masks, all closely together. And I pointed that out to Senator Baldwin and the woman with her, and they both looked, huh? And they both pulled their masks up.
Pizza Box, appreciate you checking in from the Wisconsin State Capitol. We're going to have a fine State Senator John Erpenbach check in next. He was in the Joint Finance Committee. They're doing bad stuff to Tony's budget. More devils. We'll be right back.
Hey, you want to get high, man?
No. Yes. Yeah, I bet. In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
Hey, Dom, is your carpeting starting to have a little bit of a funk to it?
That's a bit of a personal question, Rudy.
No, I know this is a really busy time for one of our sponsors, Zero Res of Madison. People want a cleaner, healthier home.
You mean spending the entire quarantine locked in with bacteria and allergens isn't healthy? Who knew?
You want to get it professionally cleaned well before it gets funky. Even if you vacuum frequently,
I vacuum a lot.
You still need to get it professionally cleaned. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you. You're an experienced roofer starting your day at dawn. It's hard work. Are you being paid what you're worth? Do you have a safe job site, healthcare, a pension? The roofers and waterproofers, Local 11 contractors pay a living wage so you can support your family and someday retire with dignity. Local 11 is looking for roofers in the Madison and Janesville area. Change your life. Join Local 11. Call Travis at 608-921-7207 or apply at rooferslocal11.
And infrastructure. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP Newsman. President Biden traveled to the New Orleans area to tout his infrastructure plan, making a speech in front of an interstate bridge that should have been replaced 20 years ago.
Truth is, across the country, we have failed. We have failed to properly invest in infrastructure for half a century.
Biden has challenged Republicans to find a way to compromise, but he says he's not going to do nothing about roads, bridges, the electrical grid, water systems, and other key infrastructure in this country. 2 students and a custodian have been injured in a shooting at a middle school in Rigby, Idaho. Police say a student is in custody. None of the injuries are considered life-threatening. Officers were called to the school in eastern Idaho this morning after students and staffers heard gunfire and locked down the building and classrooms. Multiple law enforcement agencies responded. Students were evacuated to a nearby high school to be reunited with their parents. I'm Tim McGuire.
I need these boxes in bin 7. Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to call in and find out when next...
Whitney's warehouse foreman just retired, and the replacement needs to move to fulfillment.
Hold on. Guys, can we get the dock cleared now?
Indeed can help her hire the people she needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority you.
News. For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Thursday, May 6th. A new study reports nearly 75% of U.S. coal-powered power plants are slated for retirement or uneconomical compared to nearby wind or solar farms. Of the 8 coal-powered plants in Wisconsin, 6 are deemed uneconomical, and of those, 4 are set to be retired in the near future. Alliant Energy has told regulators that by moving away from coal to more renewable resources, it will be able to save its customers $6.5 billion over the next 35 years. The report also found the 2 largest coal-powered plants in Wisconsin are on the cusp of becoming uneconomical with the decreased costs of renewable energy. This morning, Summerfest announced a slate of headliners for the 2021 event, this year being held during the first 3 weekends in September due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Croots are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Thursday 4 o'clock happy hour. Dominic, we got a fine guest joining us right now live via phone. It is my senator, our friend John Erpenbach. He is a member of the Joint Finance Committee, one of the minority Dems on that committee. John, welcome back to the big show.
Hey, thanks, guys. How you doing?
Good, John. Thank you, sir.
Excellent, John. I regret that I missed your press conference earlier today. and the protest actions of Voces de la Frontera. Apparently, things got started a little bit late in the Joint Finance Committee, John.
Yeah, a little bit late. The protesters were there, and the issue they were talking about is dead on accurate. The idea that we are not going to allow undocumented workers an opportunity to have a driver's license while we expect them to work on the front lines, we expect them to pay taxes and everything else, was taken out of the budget today, which was too bad.
John, there were hundreds of items taken out of Tony Evers' budget. And my understanding is your Republican colleagues just dug a $3.4 billion hole that has to be backfilled. And one of the items that could have helped to do that was legalizing recreational cannabis. John, they voted that down as well.
Right. And we can have the debate on marijuana, but it's something that in this state is popular. I mean, people do support it. People overwhelmingly support, at the very least, medical marijuana. But the idea that, the Republicans, again, are kind of behind the curve when it comes to what the people want is not surprising. A lot of stuff that they did take out of the budget today, people overwhelmingly support. And the reason why it was in the budget to begin with is because Tony Evers went around the state and listened to what Wisconsinites had to say. And the budget he introduced was what Wisconsin was telling him to do. So not only marijuana, but whether it's Medicaid, the license, driver's license issues we're talking about, these are all things that people, the majority of the people of the state support, but it was taken out anyways.
John, one of the most indefensible items that these Republicans have done is the failure to expand Badger Care, the failure to expand Medicaid. And they've already cost us about $3 billion as a state. They're going to turn down $1.6 billion over the next 2 years. And John, my understanding, even the ongoing reimbursement rates would be at 90% locked in. But Republicans will accept reimbursement rates under 60. They'll accept 30% federal dollars to backfill the state budget, but they won't do the right thing by the very poorest Wisconsinites that would otherwise qualify for Medicaid. I mean, I know Scott Walker wanted to run for president on this bad policy, John, but what the hell's the wrong with the rest of them?
Yeah, and we see how far that got him in that race. He was in the race for about 20 minutes. So let's break it down here for a little bit. We're talking about providing access to health care at a extremely low cost for individuals who are going to be making slightly over minimum wage to up to about $10.50 an hour. There's not a lot of jobs out there that pay that. They pay more, but the fact is there are jobs out there that pay that right now. And the idea that they don't have access to Badger Care is beyond frustrating. There's absolutely no compassion there. Now, if you want to talk dollars and cents, the idea that the federal government would take our tax dollars that belong in Wisconsin and say, here you go, expand Badger Care up to 135% of federal poverty level, and we'll help you pay for it. And oh, by the way, here's another $1 billion as an incentive to do it, because we're one of a handful of states that don't do it now. Here's an additional $1 billion to spend as you want. It's one-time money. And the Republicans are concerned about what Tony Evers is going to do with the federal ARPA money, but they have $1 billion right in front of their face right now. It's right there. They can take that and incorporate it into their budget, and they chose not to do that today.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio. Wisconsin State Senator John Erpenbach joining us. John, that is so supremely frustrating, not only on the budgetary sense, but certainly on the humanitarian sense as well. And we're talking dollars and cents. The ultimate result of the Republicans' actions is to create a $3.4 billion hole, let's call it. Part of that, a big chunk of that, of course, is that Medicaid expansion money, but also some, raising taxes. Republicans are not down for that, John. And one that's always kind of gotten to Rudy and I is this manufacturing agribusiness tax credit, 0.4% tax rate. 0.4. That's less than 0.5% of a tax rate on these profitable companies. John, why are the Republicans so hesitant to do that? This thing has already busted the budget from what they predicted it would, quote unquote, cost to what it actually cost. Are the Republicans going to deal with this at all?
No, they're not. And what the governor had proposed is something that, obviously a lot of Democrats do support, was eliminating the manufacturing of the man and ag tax credit. And the reason why we're doing the manufacturing is simply because it's extremely expensive, first of all. Secondly, there really aren't anywhere near enough number of new jobs to justify that kind of tax break. And third, the amount of money is spread over the wealthiest people, not corporations or manufacturers, but the wealthiest people here in the state of Wisconsin. So it's not fair by any means. It's a huge tax break for the wealth, and I'm talking about like the ultra millionaires here in Wisconsin. They get the tax break, the rest of us don't, and they're not creating the jobs to justify the tax break. So the elimination of at least the manufacturing portion of the man and ag tax break it should have been dealt with a long time ago. We tried to do it again in this budget with the governor, but they're not even gonna look at that.
Of course they're not. John, the Badger bounce back, you know, the governor has been very clear on what he wants. As you mentioned, he went around the state. He got input from the citizens. I mean, it seems like he's doing all the right things, checking all the right boxes, but the Republicans want nothing to do with that. And I saw a tweet from Journal Sentinel reporter Molly Beck saying the messaging from the Republicans, unlike the Democrats, which is, you know, the Badger bounce back, it is a back to basics. Was that your impression?
Right.
And what the hell does that mean?
Well, basically what the Republicans are going to do is start over with a new budget based on the budget, the last budget we passed. So basically they're taking that budget and building on that. But more importantly, what they're doing is not listening to what Wisconsinites are saying. Again, can't stress this enough, you guys. Governor's budget was full of things, not so much Tony wanted, sure he supported him, but is what Wisconsinites told him. And he went around the state and he listened. And when we took the finance committee on the road to do public listening sessions in Rhinelander and Menominee and Whitewater, and then a virtual one in Madison to wrap things up, people overwhelmingly supported what the governor was talking about and his bounce back agenda and all that. People overwhelmingly supported that. And basically the first real vote we took today in finance was to take about 400 items that people do support out of the budget. So again, you know, they can call it back to basics or whatever, but the point in all of this is if you compare the two, Republicans are not listening to what Wisconsinites are saying, and Governor Evers is. That's the biggest difference between where the Republicans are today and where Governor Evers is today.
Senator Erpenbach, as far as I was concerned, Republicans lost all credibility with Foxconn. I mean, Foxconn, this god-awful boondoggle of a deal, drafted on the back of a cocktail napkin by Scott Walker, but it was the same legislative leaders, at least in the case of Robin Voss, that were telling us about these well-paying $13 an hour jobs, and there'd be 13,000 of them, and it'd be transformative for our entire economy. And now it's not, John. It's a greatly diminished deal, and the governor has renegotiated what could have been a $4 billion deal into apparently an $80 million deal. Obviously, local municipalities still on the hook for the infrastructure investment to date, John. But this is still a hell of a lot better than what Evers was facing with no Foxconn outputs. What do you think of the new deal, and was there any conversation from your joint finance co-committee members, you know, the Republican side? They would bring up Foxconn today, John.
What's that?
Any discussion of Foxconn today in the joint finance?
A little bit, only on the budget adjustment numbers. We have more money now because the Foxconn deal didn't go through as planned by the Republicans and the renegotiation of the contract with Governor Evers. So let me compare, and this is going to be a stretch, but stick with me for a second. Let me compare Foxconn to Medicaid expansion. Foxconn was a multi-billion-dollar bet on something that did not exist yet. Wasn't there. It was just an agreement, a handshake, and lots of law changes and lots of money set aside, not only immediately, but into the future. The Medicaid expansion is actually betting on Wisconsinites, low-income Wisconsinites, who need some help right now. And the idea that they are in a tough spot, low income, you know, living slightly above the federal poverty line, yet they're trying to work, they're trying to contribute, they're trying to better their lot in life, and they're here right now, and they are Wisconsinites. We should be betting on them. We shouldn't be betting on a Foxconn situation that was never going to happen. the way the Republicans played it out. It was never going to happen to justify the amount of money we spent up front and the law changes besides. We should be betting on our own. And if you expand Medicaid, you're giving people an opportunity to not worry about health care, to have access to good quality health care so they can move on with their life and better their lot in life. I'd much rather bet on Wisconsinites than bet on a Foxconn thing that just simply doesn't exist.
John, the state of Wisconsin, I'm betting on a redistricting that is more fair because, quite frankly, most of the bad governance for the last decade is a reflection of gerrymandered districts. John, I'm a little concerned about the timing of the census, though. Normally it comes out in April, all the data needed to set the next maps. Not coming out until September. We already know the Republicans have hired and been injuncted to not hire lawyers to defend their secretive drawing of the maps. But John, I'm concerned that we're still going to be contesting the next election on the same gerrymandered and rigged maps that we've contested the last 5 elections in Wisconsin. John, you got any reassurances that, something fairer is coming down the pike?
I really hope so. And part of the reason why I feel that there's an opportunity for fair maps is because of Tony Evers. The Republicans have been trying to figure out a way to go around his authority within this to have to sign legislation where they can just pass something and not bypass the governor and keep essentially the maps the way they are right now. And the injunction is basically saying that the Republicans can't spend taxpayers' money on a lawsuit that doesn't exist right now. That's kind of what that comes down to. So the idea that, the governor is a Democrat, obviously legislature is controlled by Republicans. Theoretically, you think that they would have to work together in order to move the state forward. Fair maps is moving the state forward. And so if they pass maps that are just so god awful unfair, you have Tony Evers there ready to talk them off a ledge, whether he vetoes it or works with them or whatever. But we do have a chance for fair maps this session. It's just a matter of how much the Republicans are really willing to work with Tony Evers. Now, that being said, their track record of working with the governor to this point is less than stellar. It's not good. So, if the Republicans want to pass redistricting legislation, they need to work with Governor Evers. If they just want to go ahead and try and ram something through, obviously it won't become law, and then maybe or maybe not the courts end up drawing the maps. We'll see.
John, my concern with these Republicans is not just their partisan nature. It's the fact that you've got a number of seditious Republicans in the Wisconsin Republican caucus. And John, they were sending off letters to Mike Pence the day before the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, encouraging him not to codify the Electoral College. Above and beyond that, we've got people sitting on the Wisconsin Elections Board that were also fraudulent electors selected to support Donald Trump. John, how do we move this state forward if we've still got Republicans propagating a big lie?
Well, I think people are smarter than that. People in Wisconsin are smarter than that. We went through the electoral process here. Joe Biden won here. People in Wisconsin have accepted that, except some, state legislative elected leaders. And the idea that they're going to continue to push a lie, that's on them. But their constituents know the truth. They're pushing the big lie in elections that they actually won, which again is a whole nother issue that they need to settle in therapy, I suppose. But at the end of the day, Wisconsin knows who won. And Wisconsin has accepted it, and Wisconsin has moved on. If those Republicans choose not to, well, that's on them.
John Erpenbach, my senator. Sir, we've got to move on. Thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon.
Thanks, John.
All right, anytime, guys. Good to talk with you.
Come back with us. Phone lines open. More Devils. 844-967-2789.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin. The Roman Coin features weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, pinball, a pool table, a jukebox, and a great selection of craft beers. The Roman Coin is also pet-friendly to appeal to the canine crowd, and you can order it from several nearby restaurants. Regano's Roman Coin, 1004 East Brady Street on Milwaukee's east side.
Make some room on your home screen for the greatest radio app ever. Check out the Devil Radio app in the Apple and Google Play stores today and stream the greatest radio station ever wherever you go. The Devil Radio app, streaming 24/7 right from your smartphone. Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, McFarland's choice for essential radio.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, last segment of the day. So if you have something to say, pick up the phone, hit us up right now, toll-free talk or text, except you, George, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Senator John Erpenbach. He's my senator, our friend. We appreciate him coming round. And Dom, I got at least one more issue for your consideration.
No, you got lots of issues, Crudy, but I'll take one more for this segment.
This one is kind of a big issue. Ruth Conniff over at the Wisconsin Examiner, GOP legislators push Mexican border wall. Well, of course, we know this. Conservatives, Republicans, they're always pushing Trump's wall, right? But these are Wisconsin Republican legislators.
Wisconsin state legislators, correct.
They even made a video, Dom.
Oh, great.
There's a music video, apparently. As vice president, Kamala Harris arrived in Milwaukee to promote Joe Biden's $2.3 trillion jobs and infrastructure plan. State Republicans were focused like a laser beam 1,500 miles to the south on the states that share a border with Mexico. Assembly Majority Leader Jim, don't call him Stinky Steineke, and Assembly Speaker Pro Tem Tyler August sent an open letter to Harris on May 4th, highlighting what they called the Southern border crisis. Southern border crisis. My border crisis is usually paying tolls in the flatland, but I read on. And urging the vice president to turn her attention away from job creation in their home state and instead address the invasion of migrants crossing into this country from Mexico. Noting Harris's visit had been widely reported, but skipping over the details of a plan that includes major investments in green energy, roads, bridges, removing lead from our drinking water, and finally bringing broadband to neglected parts of rural Wisconsin. Now, that was proposed prior, and Scott Walker turned down the federal broadband expansion to the tune of like $26 million, or maybe it was 52, I forget. You know, what's another backward-ass decision from the former governor? You know, it's hard to keep them all.
Hell, it's not his money. Who cares?
Well, of course, people didn't get broadband down. They were left a decade behind by this man, but I read on. Wisconsin Republicans told Harris to go to Texas. Here's a quote. The sheer number of illegal crossings has put a tremendous strain on Border Patrol agents, local law enforcement in Texas, and people living in communities throughout the South. Steineke and August wrote, Wisconsin Republicans, they do not have enough agents to deal with this level of invasion. The two referred to a recent trip they took to the border at the invitation of the conservative Texas Public Policy Foundation, where they talked with angry ranchers who say they fear for their safety. They even made a video with music. I'll spare you the video, folks. August stands in front of the Trump wall, in which he explains it was built to replace the insufficient Obama wall. Alas, the Democrats are in charge again, and cue the music as we pan to the unbuilt section of the wall Biden does not plan to complete. Clearly, Republicans would rather talk about border crisis than the Biden-Harris administration's ambitious jobs plan, which offers real hope of jumpstarting the economy after the pandemic and creating millions of new jobs. After going AWOL for much of the last year, refusing to take up pandemic relief measures, writing to court to have Governor Tony Evers' public health orders canceled, and then turning away billions of dollars in federal aid. They're now calling on Evers to send the National Guard to Texas. It's almost pathological how they can't seem to focus on what's going on here at home, Dom.
Rudy, the border crisis is a national Republican talking point, the party's best effort to distract people from the Biden administration's popular initiatives and its own do-nothing record. Both the Republican National Committee and Republican Senator Ron Johnson joined the chorus condemning Harris for her focus on Wisconsin and directing her to travel to the border. Johnson added the federal infrastructure investments she came to Milwaukee to promote are a boondoggle. Harris visited UW-Milwaukee to learn about its cutting-edge research and development in clean energy. Wisconsin Republicans might benefit from taking a similar trip when they're not too busy flying off to Texas. The whole focus on the border is, of course, misdirection from a party that does not care to engage in policy debates about what the government can do actually to help people, stimulate the economy, create jobs, and address pressing needs. The two assembly leaders are also behind the news cycle. On Sunday, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told CBS that the number of unaccompanied migrant children held by Border Patrol has dropped 88% since late March. Customs and Border Protection was holding 677 unaccompanied children over the weekend, compared to the record almost 5,800 lone minors the agency had in its custody in March 28th. But the dramatic progress did not stop Steineke in August from holding a news conference Tuesday morning to issue shrill alarms about the increasing pressure migrants are placing on the Border Patrol. Never mind that the Biden administration is emptying once overcrowded migrant shelters, processing unaccompanied children, and reuniting families in record time. And never mind the whole border crisis narrative is not a crisis at all, but part of a large, familiar annual cycle, as demonstrated by years of Border Patrol statistics that show seasonal migration from Central America with a regular spring spike. Some of the current uptick in migrants on the border is explained by this unusual seasonal pattern, and some is due to a backlog that built up because the Trump administration restrictions. Clearly, the children who are coming are fleeing terrible circumstances in their home countries. That's the real crisis. Immigration lawyers who are trying to help them here worry that the fear-mongering about the idea that their presence constitutes a crisis for the United States is going to make their situation worse. Those facts are not interesting to Republicans who care more about scoring political points than dealing with actual problems. Could have jumped down here just a little bit in their letter.
I was distracted for a moment because Gary called us.
We got a caller.
Gary from. Oh no! What happened?
Gary did not want to go on the air, but he wanted to let us know he was thinking about us, and I told him about the app. He's very excited about that. But he's
the Devil
okay.
Radio app.
Yeah,
Gary, you could download it and listen to us even when you're climbing a ladder or servicing a roof. You know, doing the sort of high ladder work that migrants often have to do to cross into the United States.
Rudy, if Steineke in August, and Johnson for that matter, want to address problems posed by illegal immigration, they could start by pushing for a legal work visa to help bring year-round agricultural workers out of the shadows and acknowledge the critical role they play in Wisconsin's economy. We brought this up the other day. Short of visa changes, which have to happen at the federal level, Republicans in the legislature could restore driver's licenses to undocumented workers.
No, pulled that from the budget today, Dom.
Oh, that's right.
Dominic, want to thank all our fine guests. James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney, John Nichols, National Affairs Correspondent with The Nation, and Wisconsin State Senator John Erpenbach. We thank you all for listening, including you, Gary. Don't forget, get the Devil Radio app. You can take us worldwide. Now stick around. The Earl Ingram Show is next. And then after that, Native Roots Radio. And as it's Thursday night, after that is Jeff Santos. Keep it locked right here, Devil Radio 92.7, or listen on the app.
will be back in some form.
I'm 10 years old, but I'll beat your ass.
The one thing we know, and they do say, anybody that runs against Trump suffers.
You're a lying dog.